Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA Deeper Dive presented by Underdog Fantasy. I'm Dave Loughran at Lafay_D on the Twitters, joined by Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS. What's good, bro? Friday night, how you feeling?
Pretty good. Baseball's going well on the early slate. Now we get playoff basketball, or kind of playoff basketball. So yeah, pretty excited. And it's actually a little bit different than this morning too. So it doesn't feel like I'm doing the same show twice since we got the Paul George news.
That news on a 2-game slate is just massive.
Oh yeah, I messaged Josh and was like, I thought we were done with the days of like doing a strategy show and having it being erased like 30 minutes later.
Yeah, and it's COVID.
Yeah, from one thing I saw, I think he actually like is sick.
Yeah, I mean, people can get sick from it.
No, I know, but like at first, I just thought like it was. At first,
like another one of the Yeah,
Yeah,
I got
I was like, really? Are we still just throwing people in health and safety protocols to be
right.
safe? But
This
like
would
I
have been
saw, and I like I don't know, I don't even remember what the source was or how reliable it was, but I saw somebody say like George wasn't feeling well, so he like
if
tested.
he didn't have symptoms, they're sure as shit not testing.
Right. That's the
As
part
they
that was
shouldn't. Like they
right. Yeah,
shouldn't.
that's the part that was confusing me. I was like, why are we just randomly testing Paul George today?
We talked about it for a while before the NFL actually implemented that,
Right.
right? Like just if once you got past the Delta, and then it was all right, and then there wasn't a single notable case in the postseason, which kind of to be expected. But you got that wave over the wave. What was it? The like remember that Christmas and New Year's wave that was just insane.
Yeah, that's
Everybody
around when
got
I
sick.
stopped playing hockey because I just couldn't keep up with how to swap people.
Yeah, right. And then they like canceled the season for a while.
Yeah.
Or postponed the season. But anyway, hold on a second. Almost left the lights off. Got dark in here for a second. We got 2 games, but yeah, that news is huge. I mean, there's like it's not even that Paul's out and it's a regular season game. It's one where he played over 40 minutes last game. Reggie Jackson played, what was it, 42 minutes last game. And now you've got like the Norman Powell situation. This throws a wrench into everything. So like you said, it's kind of exciting to talk about a slate like this because there's something different. I also had just finished recording the NBA props video over on the Odd Shopper channel. And as it gets posted, Paul George was ruled out. But here's the good thing. I was on Reggie Jackson over assists. So hopefully it got there a little bit before he was out and those assist jumps from 4.5 to 6.5. But initial thoughts on this slate, just looking at it, is there going to be, and I know normally if someone like Paul George is ruled out, answer's obvious, but is there going to be enough like value, or is this going to be one where you're just like looking at a lot of 5K and 6K guys to fill your lineup with?
No, I think there's enough value, mostly because the pricing at the top is really soft too. Like Trae Young is 9,700. We had George at 10K or 10.2, whatever it was, but obviously he's not there now. So what I had talked about with Josh this morning was that I thought both of those guys, now just Young, look good at their reduced price tags. But there's also like really soft pricing on guys like Darius Garland, Brandon Ingram, Jonas Valanciunas, Reggie Jackson. So like you could still make some really strong mid-range teams, but with George being out, it's not that it gives you any like $3,500 guys that necessarily look a lot better, but it makes your 5K Marcus Morris look better. It makes your $4,200 Batum look better. It makes Norman Powell look better. Zubats looks better. So it gives you a bunch more like 4 to 5K guys that look good. And because Young is the most expensive player at 9,700 and nobody else is even above 9K on DraftKings, it's going to be easy to just get whoever the hell you want, I think.
I agree. Hit that thumbs up too. Forgot to say, almost at 100 likes. Appreciate you guys out of the gate. About 100 of you, you know the drill, and we appreciate it. But if you don't, maybe you're new here. Maybe you just forgot. That's all right. Atone for those sins early on. Get it out of the way. Only takes a second, and it helps us a ton. Like I've said many times, I would not ask you to hit the like button if it didn't matter, and subscribe to that channel because all of that stuff helps us keep the lights on around here. So thanks in advance to all of you guys who have already done so and are about to. All right. So we got Atlanta, Cleveland. We got the Pels, who I think there's some really interesting things to talk about for the Pelicans as well. And the Clippers. Want to hear something real funny, real quick though, but since we only have 2 games.
Yeah.
Buddy of mine sent me an article. It's in like mainstream news. Forget what it was. This woman in Utah the other day ran over 2 cyclists, killed them. You want to know what her excuse was?
They should have cars.
Uncontrollable defecation.
That's a rough one.
So I thought of Josh immediately because he's telling me a story where he's like, I would shove my wife into the aisle of food just to get to the bathroom. But I'm thinking, can you imagine thinking this is the worst day of my life? And then it gets even worse.
Yeah. And you're not even the person in your general vicinity having the worst day anymore. And
then she fled the scene. And I was wondering, and by the way, who knows if that's true? Someone said she was drunk. Sure. But then it occurred to me, did she flee the scene because she didn't want to get caught, or did she flee the scene out of sheer embarrassment?
Right.
I mean, I can't imagine, but yeah, there's no way that was it. I would stick around just to prove to them, like, listen, this is the truth, but it wasn't. Anyway, let's, yes, John, it does sound a lot worse for the cyclists, but they weren't around to think that it was their worst day. All right, Atlanta and Cleveland.
It was probably a fleeting moment.
What'd you say?
There was probably a fleeting moment.
I suppose. I didn't get to ask him. I shouldn't laugh, but I just, yeah, Dr. Jim, exactly. He said, shit your pants to escape a manslaughter charge. It was a shock. I mean, it's a good excuse if you don't go home and say you cleaned up first. Like, that's the problem. It's a nonsense excuse if you don't have proof, and there's proof. But anyway, thought it was an interesting story relevant to what we're talking about here today. And thanks, guys. Up to 165 likes. So it's probably a good time to kickstart. Probably a good start to start talking about some NBA here. It's technically not the playoffs. Like, even over on NBA stats, they have regular season, preseason, playoffs, and play-in, if you want to filter by that. So this will decide it all, and then we'll get real playoff basketball, 4 games tomorrow and 4 games on Sunday. Kick it off with the Atlanta Hawks here. We've got them. When was our last ownership update? I don't think it was too long ago. Let me just make sure here. Sweet, 55 seconds ago. All right, we're in business now. Free content today, too, in case you guys were wondering. Player rankings for NBA, ownership rankings for baseball, player projections for NHL, and fighter rankings for MMA. So across the board, we got free stuff for everybody. Yeah, let's do this. Atlanta at Cleveland. Cleveland going to get barring any setbacks, should get Jared Allen back today. But let's kick it off with the Atlanta Hawks. No John Collins. Bogdanovich is once again a game time decision. Started with Trae Young. It's not a do you like him, but how do you rank him amongst the other high tier guys, especially now that Paul George, who was one of only a handful of them, is out?
I mean, he's pretty much by himself. Like, he's $800 more expensive than CJ McCollum. He's $1,200 more than Garland. And so, you know, as far as the actual payoffs, like, he projects as the highest scorer on the slate. It's not particularly close. It is a difficult matchup, especially, you know, with Allen back. It does solidify that defense. You have Mobley and Allen now, but the price tag came down quite a bit for Young as well. So it's still going to be easy to get there. And, you know, he does project as the highest scorer, even if it's not quite the best value. It's still a solid value as well. So I think kind of, you know, a tier of his own.
By the way, when you said fleeting moment, was that a play on words, or was that intentional?
Wasn't a play on words.
Okay, because I missed it. Someone else mentioned it. And yeah, like a fleet of bicycles. I thought you were trying to
no. I wasn't thinking that quickly. I was just
thinking what it would be like.
Yeah, I was just mocking someone who died for some reason.
Jesus. All right. He is in a tier of his own because the Garland price points come down considerably. I mean, I guess McCollum's up there too, but you're right. It's really only him. It would have been him and George. Outside of Trae, though, it starts to get really interesting because you got the same thing I feel like we talk about with Atlanta all the time. You have Kevin Huerter, you have Danilo Gallinari, Bogdanovich, DeAndre Hunter. All of these guys priced really similarly. What I find kind of cool is that even though these teams have only played one play-in game, Adam, and it's a really small sample, I do think outside of foul trouble or injuries that we can glean a decent amount from what some of these rotations look like. And of course, outside of the blowouts, but still, like if you were to tell me, yeah, just tack on 4 minutes to the end of Clint Capella's rotation and Okongwu looked like he was only going to play 6-7 minutes a half, I can get on board with that. But I do think we learned a lot from Atlanta, at least seeing what happened. And that game was not even remotely competitive halfway through the third quarter.
Yeah, and also the rotation mostly was what we expected anyway. Like,
correct.
One of the big questions going into that game was exactly how much does Clint Capella play? Because based on what we had seen down the stretch, you're expecting, 30 to 32 minutes from Capella, but with it being essentially a playoff game, there's some chance that he plays a few more minutes. We got him on pace for 33, so that's pretty much in line with what you were expecting. Okongwu backed him up. The wing rotation basically went as we expected. DeAndre Hunter played about 30 minutes. He was on his way to playing around 34. Had that game been competitive, Kevin Huerter was in the same range. Danilo Gallinari had some first half foul trouble, which is when Luau Cabarro first subbed in. That was one of the other questions going into that last game was, is Luau Cabarro in the rotation? He didn't appear that he was going to be until Gallo got in foul trouble. Then he also played in the second half. So I still don't really know the answer to that. I think it's likely that he gives you like a stint today, but you still got Gallo getting to like 30 or 29 and a half minutes and then losing garbage time. So I think it's safe to expect 30 plus from him. Bogdanovic is one where he's questionable right now, but I do think he's the one that you have to be the most aware of what was going on in that game because he comes off the bench, and then in the first half, he played a normal rotation where he subbed in halfway through the first, he went back to the bench halfway through the second, then he came in and closed mostly over Huerter, and then Huerter came in and closed over Gallo. But then in the second half, that game wasn't competitive, like you said. So Bogdanovic played around 8 to 10 minutes in the second half. He may have just played the entire rest of the game had that game been competitive, and you take a couple minutes off of Huerter, or you take, a couple minutes off of Gallo, or maybe he, subs out and comes back. But one way or the other, I think you were looking at like 30 to 32 minutes from Bogdanovic as well. So it was pretty much the same wing rotation that we expected. But I do think it's important to point out that you shouldn't be looking at Bogdanovic's 24 minutes and drawing any sort of negative conclusion from that.
Well, that has been Bogdanovic's rotation.
Right.
I mean, if you look at that game against Miami, 2 games before the end of the regular season, because remember, Atlanta was still vying for positioning in the East, for play-in positioning, right? And Bogdanovic played, he played almost 21 straight minutes to close out that game. Almost 21 straight minutes, played 36. And you still had Capella, Huerter, Hunter, Trae Young, like all of the main faces were there. What about the game after that against the Houston Rockets? That was the last game of the year. And Bogdanovic, despite this game being a blowout and the starters coming off for 2 minutes, he played 14 straight minutes to close the game, would have played 16. So I don't think it's only not unrealistic to think that he would have played or closed that game out. I think Bogdanovic in a close game definitely closes the game out.
Yeah, completely agree. Like I expect him to be in the closing lineup, assuming that he's good to go today.
So what's the closing lineup for you tonight, if it's close? Young, just for anyone that doesn't pay close attention to what this Atlanta rotation looks like.
Yeah, so I mean, Young is the given. And then basically, so Young, Capella / Okongwu, but should be Capella. And then basically 3 of the other guys. I think in terms of likelihood, Bogdanovic, probably Hunter, and then 1 of Gallo Huerter. But I do think that really just all of those guys are interchangeable to some extent. Like they do different things. But like if they're playing from behind, I think it's less likely Hunter's out there. More likely that, maybe it's like Bogdanovic, Huerter, Gallinari. If they're playing from ahead, then Hunter is almost definitely on the floor. And then you're getting 2 of the other guys. So it does kind of depend on score and how things are going. But on average, I think you're looking at like 30 to 32 minutes from most of them, and then Hunter probably playing a couple more for defensive reasons.
I mean, Capella was pacing 34 minutes last game.
Yeah.
Played 17 in the first half and then lost 4 minutes, almost 5 minutes in the blowout. This is not as good a match. I mean, that matchup against Charlotte for an opposing center, especially a good rebounding center, was phenomenal. But this one, especially with Jared Allen back in the mix, it certainly is not as good. But if you're projecting Capella for more minutes than he's played in the regular season, and I think we definitely should be tonight, not to say that foul trouble or just Okongwu doesn't play well and then, gets a few extra minutes, but how much is this slight increase in price point going to affect just the overall appeal for Capella tonight?
It makes him, I think, much more of a tournament play, although he wasn't really that popular last slate either. I think he was around 30%. But like you said, the matchup is more difficult. The price tag's gone up a little bit, but you also have, in addition to Capella's price tag increasing by $300, you have Joval's price tag coming down by $600, and then you also have Zubac's at like $5,400. So it's still pretty difficult to prioritize Capella, but that doesn't say anything about, the fact he still has a very high ceiling and the ownership should be relatively low for a 2-gamer.
Yeah, and there's a stellar matchup for Jonas Valanciunas too. Phenomenal.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it more when we get there. I actually think Paul George being out makes me feel a little bit better about Joval's playing time too.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Wait till you hear the 3-point numbers for Joval against the Clippers this year. Very weird the way they've strategized.
Is that the team that he hit like 8 against?
Yeah, dude. He has 57 3. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, he has 57 threes on the season, and 14 of them have come against the Clippers this year. So, that's what 20, a quarter of his threes came in 4 games. And like you said, yes, one of them was the game where didn't he have wasn't he 7 of 7 from 3 or 6 of 6 from 3 in the first half?
It was, I think it was 7. It was something insane.
It was crazy. But he also did it against them before. He was 2 for 3 from, well, we'll get into it, but it's a fun conversation for sure. 7 of 8. My God, 5 for 9 in a game against the Clippers too. Dude, he hit 5 threes and 7 threes against the Clippers in different games.
How many did he take?
Oh, he's 14. He's 70%. On 20 attempts against them.
Yeah, so like that part is not what I'm looking to hear. I would prefer you be like he knocked down 14 threes and shot 35%.
For sure, but here's the thing: in the one game he didn't hit any, or he didn't attempt any, and then he attempted 9 and 8. So I mean, those are 2 games right there where he's attempted 17. So right. I guess it depends on which version of him in this matchup we get tonight. But I digress. Anything else for Atlanta you want to hit on?
DeLon Wright's 3,500. He played around 18 minutes last game, would have gotten like 16 without garbage time. That was another sort of question mark, was exactly how much was he going to play with Lou Williams out. There's still the possibility he gets a little bit more, but I'm expecting around 16 minutes from him. So, again, it just gives you, it's really difficult to get there, especially on a slate where you don't have, like a 12K Kevin Durant to jam in or something like that.
All right, let's talk about the other side. Yo, did you know that Philadelphia has a USFL team?
No, I couldn't tell you any city that
I found out today. I was looking at
DC.
What?
Do you know if DC or Baltimore do?
Let me check. Because I was looking at the contest. We got projections for it. So it's like, all right, fuck yeah.
By the way, have you registered that? Because apparently it's really close to filling because they gave out like 1 million free tickets.
Is it really almost filled? 100K up top?
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm going to have to get in. Don't be filled yet. I wanted to play, man.
Yeah, I know. That's why I just mentioned it.
Well, thank you. Yeah. DraftKings got the wheel spinning on me. But we have projections too. I mean, come on. $14.95 a week for USFL projections. You don't have a lot of sites, ton of places out there doing them right now. We have Matt Kajeski on that. Super sharp fella. He's the type of guy you want doing this type of football stuff for sure. So if you want to get in on it, I think, do we have a link for this in the description? Right? Yeah, we got a link in the description. Tyler, if we have one, throw it in the chat as well. But yeah, USFL DFS projections, $14.95 for the week. Get the projections and see what this league is about, baby. Let me see if
it's full.
Wow. They got to open up another decent one. They got to. There's no doubt. They will.
I'm just wondering how soft this tournament is now, because apparently they just gave out a ton of tickets. So I don't know. People are just going to
wing it.
I don't know how many normal players manage to max register, more than 24 hours in advance.
Good question. And you're not going to be finding free projections out there, right? So I don't know. All I know is the Philadelphia Stars play on Sunday. What's that?
I said Alex didn't get in it, so I don't have to worry about, or I don't have to feel bad about when I win.
He did it?
No, I mean, I doubt a lot of people did. Who registers stuff that far in advance?
I wouldn't have thought to that.
The only reason I did was I just had downtime when I wasn't doing anything today, and I was like, I'll just register MMA and USFL before I forget about it.
Damn, they're gonna there's no way they don't open another decent contest 20. I bet it's 20 25K to first.
Yeah, they probably will.
But yeah, check out the projections if you want to. There's no doubt they'll open some other contests up on DraftKings. Links in the description. All right. How about the Cleveland Cavs, man? The Garland price point has come down considerably. MVP Rondo is the topic of conversation here. First things first. Rondo, 15 potential assists last game, closed out the game alongside Garland and LeVert. How many minutes do you give him today against the Hawks?
I went 16. I don't know. So Allen coming back clearly throws a wrench into things. They had said they were probably going to start Rondo today if Allen hadn't come back. But with Allen back, like you don't have to give nearly as many minutes to that Okoro, Stevens, Rondo, Osman part of the rotation, because now you're just looking at Garland, Levert, Laurie, Mobley, Allen. And I'm assuming Allen plays something like 30 minutes. It's a broken finger. From all I can tell, it's a pain tolerance thing. There's no reason he hasn't been able to stay in shape. It's a must-win game. I'm assuming he's playing at least 30. So I don't really see how or why Rondo would get mid-20s again. I didn't see how or why he would get it last game either, for whatever that's worth. But I went 16 there. Like my best guess is that he plays like somewhere around 16. Okoro plays somewhere around 16. Stevens just DNPs and Chetty plays like 8. I do think from a DFS standpoint, if you wanted to, you could just kind of like project all those guys for like 16 minutes. Just don't play them together. Like if you're playing a lot of lineups in the large field 100K to first, because I do think there's still a lot of just question about exactly what is Bickerstaff going to do. But then the counter to that is they're not even really necessary. Like even if I give Rondo 16 minutes, I give Chetty 16, I give Stevens 16, none of those guys are projecting higher than like 14 points for me anyway. So on this slate, I end up not really getting there, and it doesn't matter all that much anyway.
Dude, this totally feels to a lesser extent like Anthony Davis getting rushed back against the Suns and just being terrible. And the reason it's different is because this is just a finger for Jared Allen. But it does seem like one of those things where when you see someone say they're going to attempt to play, it feels like, I think you'd agree with me here, just based on the news that we've gotten, that if this was one of those games that they didn't need to win, in the regular season, Jared Allen's probably out for a couple more games.
Yeah. I mean, I would think that playing basketball through a broken finger is extremely painful. But
especially upon contact, rebounding,
right,
going up
yeah,
to the
like,
rim.
Yeah, it's not just like catching the ball when it's passed to you. Like you're
right.
just gonna be getting your hand banged the entire game.
And as a center,
right? Yeah, exactly. But also, I mean, it's something where I'm not overly concerned about it, because I think the only way he comes out of the game is if he says like, look, I can't play through this. And,
sure.
I think it's unlikely that he takes himself out.
But do you have interest in playing him?
No.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know.
Mostly because at 7,500, it's just really difficult, I think, to get there. He's only 500 less than Joval. He's, 2K more than Zubats. He's 300 more than Capella. I just have a very difficult time getting there unless you're just trying to, be contrarian in tournaments, which is fine, but I don't think I'll really be getting there.
Malachar said, shooting hand, ouch. Yeah, I mean, normally, but the thing is...
Non-shooting hand, I think.
What I was going to say is, it doesn't really matter. Like 70% of this guy's field goal attempts come within 3 feet of the basket. Probably 100 of them, 100% come in the paint. So he doesn't really shoot. You know what I mean? Not really.
He'll probably try and, one hand his dunks instead of two.
That's what I mean. Yeah. But still, even shooting and not shooting, either way, I think with Jared Allen, I'd be more worried about just going up to block shots and defensively in the paint and stuff. I don't know. But I don't know how many guys are going to be like posting up on Jared Allen on the Hawks. Right? Like I don't know. But when it comes to Garland and Mobley and Levert, all those guys, we could talk about. But what about Kevin Love's minutes today? Obviously not getting a lot of ownership. We know he can blast off when necessary. And the only reason I ask you this, sub 6K, but he's getting like 6% ownership right now against a very bad defensive team in the Hawks that does not defend the three-pointer well.
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's like 22 to 24 minutes, but
agreed.
Who knows? If Allen were to get re-injured or whatever, then you're probably looking at more minutes for Love. Offensively, we know that he can contribute more. So, like, if they're behind, do they just say, like, screw the defense, we need points, and he picks up minutes that way, kind of like last game. So I don't have any real confidence in his minutes, given that Allen is back, and also that you're going up against a very high-frequency pick and roll guy in Trae Young that can make things problematic. But like you were saying, it's a 2-game slate. You have a $5,900 Kevin Love. that if he somehow gets 28 minutes is going to be a really useful play. So certainly not anything I'm building around, but somebody that I do think still offers some upside in tournaments if you need a contrarian piece.
How else do you look to prioritize Cavs players today outside of, an obvious Darius Garland at that price in a good matchup? It is a good matchup for Garland.
Yeah, I mean, Garland's the clear priority there. 8,500 is just a crazy price tag for somebody that should play 40 minutes. Even last game where he inexplicably sat for 6 minutes in the first half, he still got to 39 minutes. And I'd be surprised if he didn't play the same or more today. So even if you just give him 40 minutes at 8,500, he looks like a clear top option. Evan Mobley, I think, still looks fine at 6,800. The one negative for Mobley is that his rebounding rate does go down playing alongside Jared Allen, as you would expect. But still should play 36 minutes or so, if not more, and he's not that expensive. Karis LeVert, certainly playable at 6,500 as well. He played 40 minutes, actually led the team last game, only got up 12 field goal attempts, which was weird. And in the games that he has started alongside Garland, he only has a 21.5% usage rate, but at 6,500, still probably just playing enough minutes where he's a decent option. So I think Garland's the clear priority. Then the next level for me is Mobley, LeVert, and then it's like another step down to Markkanen and Love. Then it's, if you want to gamble on Allen in the mid-range or one of the cheap guards, then go for it because it's a 2-game slate, but not really something that I anticipate doing a whole lot of.
By the way, Ryan Houston said that DK does have a 20K up top. I figured they would. I mean, if you fill that quick, they'll fill a 20K up top easy. Then they'll probably have a 10 and a 5 like they always do. So there's going to be good spots for sure. Hit on a couple super chats here. I'm Real Forever says, thoughts on Markkanen. I appreciate the timely super chat, man. That's etiquette right there while we're on the team. Any additional thoughts on Markkanen for this super chatter?
He's just like completely neutral to me. Right now we only have, or do we not have ownership?
17%.
Okay, I'll say it hadn't updated in the Boom Bust tool yet, which is what I was looking at. But
they got him at the 3 too for a lot of this game.
Right, so it hurts his rebounding as well, playing alongside Mobley and Allen. The other thing is, like, if Kevin Love were to play more minutes, they're probably, well, they could be coming at the expense of Allen, but assuming Allen's not re-injured, they're probably coming at the expense of Markkanen, at least in part. So I think he's risky. And then the other thing you have to keep in mind is that you have all of those Atlanta wings that are in that price range. You have the Clippers wings that are in that price range. So I think he's purely a tournament option. He can get hot and pick up more minutes, but he just has a lot working against him because, he has 2 guys on his team that rebound more than him. He has 2 guys on his team, at least 2 guys, that are probably going to outscore him. And then when you look at the slate as a whole, there's a bunch of guys in that price range that just project better. So right now, kind of a last piece in here and there in tournaments, since he is only 17% owned, we have him with a 20% chance of being optimal, but I'm certainly not very confident in him.
And last question, how much Rondo are you getting to?
I don't think I'll have any.
Okay.
Like if Trae Young were 11.5 and Darius Garland were 11K and I don't know, like McCollum and Ingram and Joe Val were all 10K or something, like if it was a slate like that, then I would just be gambling on every version I could.
That's such a good point. We saw Rondo, that. We saw that on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Right. Of Rondo / Chetty / Stevens. But like, I don't think if you get like 13 or 14 or 15 fantasy points from Rondo on this slate, I don't think that's helping you do anything. If the pay up options were more expensive, then it would. But this is kind of like you said the other day when you had like Harrell at 3,500 and he was like super popular and Plumlee was super popular. The reason people were playing them was that they were thinking that if DeJounte Murray or Trae Young went for like 60, then getting, 16, well, for one, I think people also overprojected Harrell, but besides that, they were thinking if you got like 16 from Harrell, you'd still be good because you need that 60.
Yeah.
But here with Garland and Young being so cheap, you don't even have to go that cheap to get them into your lineups. And then on top of that, you have the very strong mid-range with the Pels guys, with the Clippers guys. So I expect that people are going to try and take shots on Rondo or, other cheap guys there that, at a higher frequency than I think is really worth it, given how easy it is to make lineups without them.
Yeah, no, I think that's a valid point for sure. 2 more super chats, then we'll move this one forward. Mike Verderosa, iced up, man. Got the year badge, looking good, fella. You guys want to join the team here, get the super chats, the badges, the sweet badges, free super chats each month, the custom emojis. Always prioritize your questions, comments, along with our premium Discord. Hit join down below. It's like $2.99 a month if you want to join the team. He said max 2 or 3 of Herder, Bogdanovich, assuming he plays, and Gallinari. Oh, I'm sorry, Gallinari and Hunter. So all 4 of those wings / power forward.
Yeah, I would, if I set a rule, which I try not to set too many rules on 2-game slates just because it's 2 games. But I would go 3. And typically just the way I think through that is closing lineups. So I think there's going to be 3 of them in the closing lineup. But I also, again, like, I don't think I would get a lot of lineups with more than 3 of them anyway. But if I'm playing 150 lineups and I got all 4 of them in one, I don't think I would care that much. If I'm playing, if you're playing 3 or 4 or 5 lineups or something like that, then I would definitely be capping it at 3.
And my filler arc says, not going to play the beast that is playoff Rondo. So should I have Love or Laurie Markkinen in my losing lineup today? Let's assume tournament large field, Adam, because we don't have much context.
Yeah, I'm going to say Love just because, well, 2 reasons. For one, he's getting 1/3 the ownership of Markkinen right now, even though he is only $400 more, assuming we're talking DraftKings.
Yeah.
And 2, I think the holy shit Kevin Love, went nuts game is higher than the, oh, wow, Lauri Markkinen played well game.
And Markkinen's liable to disappear too.
Right. Neither of them are safe. But Love is the one where, like, if one of these guys takes over the game, it's not likely either of them do. But if one of them takes over the game, you're much less surprised if it's Kevin Love than if it's Lauri Markkinen.
Right. And a better rebounder.
Yeah, I was going to say, when Love is on the floor, he's getting rebounds and he's scoring. So it's really just like, I don't expect him to play enough minutes for him to really be a safe play at this price. But if I'm wrong on the minutes, I think that you're getting a very, very big game from Kevin Love. If I'm wrong on Lauri Markkinen's minutes, you're expecting to get a better game than if I'm not wrong on his minutes. But you can tell me Lauri Markkinen plays 36 minutes and a good amount of time, I'm like, oh, cool, he got 30 fantasy points instead of 25.
Right. And you're getting the ownership advantage there too on Love.
Right. Yeah, if Love was 17% and Lauri was 7%, I would say I'd rather play Lauri. But that's the biggest thing to me is the ownership.
Anything else on Cleveland?
No.
All right. Hey, I don't know if you guys have done so yet. A lot of people have because, well, it's just a legitimately good site or app or whatever you want to use it as. But Underdog Fantasy is doing some real cool stuff right now. I mean, Adam and I love the best ball drafts that they have for NFL. Absolute blast this season. Drafting is the best part too. Like, the season is the afterthought. Drafting and then getting down to the end of the season, seeing what you get in is the best part. And they're doing something really cool that no one else is doing. It's called The Dance. And it's open now through the 16th, April 16th. I don't know if the dance filled yet, but if it did, I'm sure they put up another decent sized contest. They have to have something up. Right?
Yeah, there's one called The Waltz up, and then they'll probably add a few more.
Okay. Because otherwise I'd look like an asshole telling you to go get in this contest that's still in the read that no one removed yet. But not you. It's not, but they it doesn't matter. I know they add stuff. They added a ton during football season last year. The dance at 30K up top, so I'm pretty certain you'll have something pretty nice with up top prizes. But the cool thing is the format. You're trying to draft the perfect team for the NBA playoffs. You pick players from the teams you think are going to make the conference and NBA finals, and you'll have a shot at winning big money by the time the playoffs wrap up. You go to underdogfantasy.com or download their app in the App Store. Sign up with the promo code Awesemo, AWESCMO, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. Up to $100, they'll double your first deposit. Have you done any of these yet, Adam?
No.
I did one the other day, and something happened. Like, I was just drafting one on my phone, see what it was about, and I'm loving it. And then I auto draft Luka Doncic, which, but the thing is, like, from a strategy standpoint, it's kind of wild. You're not like, you're definitely trying to get a bunch of players on the same team as you would want to, because you're trying to get guys through. It's not like regular season football. You want to stack, obviously, but this is different. And then you're trying to look at, like, well, if they face this team next, when would they meet? If you're drafting teams in the same conference, so there's a lot of strategy applied to this. It's cool. Use the promo. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I just hadn't gotten around to doing any. I thought about it once Josh put out his projections because I thought it would be really fun to take Josh's projections and beat him with them. But I still didn't get around to it.
Just choked on my water. Yeah, check out Josh's projections. I think he did videos on it too, right? I think he did a video like a mock draft or a real draft. So I'm going to see whatever else they have and get some in tonight. Friday night, got a little bit of time to myself. Going to draft some. Use the promo code Awesemo. Get up to $100 match. Double, sorry. Well, same thing when you sign up using that promo code. All right. Talk to me about the Pelicans here coming into the face the Clippers, who will be without Paul George. I mean, what a lucky break for the Pels tonight. They went from 3-point dogs to 1-point favorites. Let's start it off with CJ McCollum. And what did you see in the rotation last game? We should probably mention that Brandon Ingram was in foul trouble. So
yeah, that was gonna be the first thing I mentioned because like he only had 4 fouls. So most logical people would think like, oh, he wasn't really in foul trouble because it was essentially a playoff game. Why would the coach take him out? But they did. So he missed the final like 5 minutes and 17 seconds of the first half because he picked up foul number 3. Then he picked up foul number 4, 4 minutes and 15 seconds into the second half. He then sat the rest of the third quarter, played the entire fourth quarter. If he had just closed out the first half, he would have played about 18 and a half minutes. So you were looking at, like him being on pace for around 37 minutes. I think that's a reasonable expectation again tonight, 36 to 38. He could certainly play more, but from, a median standpoint, I think that makes sense. And he's underpriced, clearly. He's also shooting guard, small forward on DraftKings, 7,800, looks very, very good. In the games that he's played with Valanciunas and with McCollum this year, still has a 29.5% usage rate, 27.5% assist percentage, has a 10% rebounding percentage as well. Makes him look great. Valanciunas looks very good. He was another one of the big question marks, similar to Capella, going into that last slate was, in the games down the stretch in the regular season, you were getting a lot of like 30 to 32 minute Joval games. But earlier in the year, you had gotten, 36 to 38 minutes pretty consistently in close games. Last game, he played 36 minutes. And then tonight, I was a little concerned about his playing time just because the Clippers went small pretty frequently, especially in the second half last game. But Paul George being out just makes it less likely that they do that. And I think it makes it just easier for Joval to stay on the floor. So I feel good about his minutes again. His price came down. You were talking earlier, about how he's been getting just a ton of threes in this matchup as well. So I think those two look like the most underpriced. CJ McCollum, though, still likely to give you 40 plus minutes. 8,900, I think, is a good price tag on McCollum. The only reason he's not more of a priority is that it's like DraftKings took everyone's price and just like, chopped off 10 to 20% and then just didn't touch CJ McCollum. So compared to other guys, he's overpriced. Like he's more expensive than Darius Garland. He's way more expensive than Joval and Ingram. He's not that much less expensive than Trae Young. So it's hard to prioritize him, but he's still a really good play. He's still got a very high ceiling. So those three look like the clear priorities here. Herbert Jones should play 36 plus minutes at 4,800. He looks like a decent value there as well. He'd be the fourth guy for me from this team. Then it just kind of devolves into throwing darts at guys and hoping to get lucky somewhere. Jackson Hayes played like 21 minutes. I would expect low to mid 20s from him at 4,300, but far from anything I'm excited about. Trey Murphy played 22 minutes last game. So on the surface, that's pretty appealing, but he subbed in for Ingram, so picked up extra minutes there. I think that without foul trouble to Ingram, you're probably looking at around 16 minutes from Murphy. You're probably going to get around 12 from Najee Marshall. One spot that would be kind of interesting to talk about if pricing on the slate were different is that Devontae Graham only played like 7 minutes and Alvarado played 22. But that's also a game where the Pelicans were playing from ahead and Alvarado is, the better defender. If they're playing from behind, I think you would see Devontae Graham getting more minutes. But it's kind of a moot point on this slate because, Graham's only 3,300, but he's still in that like Rondo, Okoro, Chetty category for me where he would really need to play a lot more minutes than I'm thinking for him to get into my lineups. Even if he gets to like 16 to 18, he's not getting it done on this slate, I don't think.
I'm always a sucker when it comes to Joval, just because he always seems a little overpriced, but that's because he's pretty volatile and his minutes can be all over the place, but he has a really high ceiling. I mean, we got almost 37 minutes out of him last game.
Yeah, and the thing is that his price, Like I have him in for 35 or 36 minutes, but you could cut him to like 32 or 33 and he's not
still good at 8K.
Yeah, he's not bad. At 35 or 36, he obviously looks very, very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Plus, it's just a good matchup, right? Like the Clippers, last I looked, no team allows more offensive rebounds than the LA Clippers. Let me just pull this up. Yeah, they allow the most offensive rebounds. He's crushed them on the offensive boards this year. Rebounds in general, the Clippers are second worst in the league on the season. Big men dominate the boards against them defensively and offensively. I mean, it just is really one of those spots where you have this hulking, behemoth of a man in Jonas Valanciunas that, assuming he stays on the court, assuming he's not in foul trouble, and now that Paul George is out, you just lose this offensive firepower for the Clippers. I do think Norman Powell helps considerably just because this guy can get hot and he's a sharpshooter, but I don't see the Clippers going small as a reason for Joe Val to be off the court. Maybe I'm wrong. Like maybe that's a possibility tonight. I'm sure it is, but you would think you would just want him to dominate the glass.
Yeah. I was a lot more concerned about it if George was in, because it just makes it a lot easier for them to basically run a 5-out lineup where, you have Powell, Covington, George, Jackson, anybody else. And, it becomes a situation of, kind of how does it play out? Does Joe Val dominate them inside or do they shoot him off the floor? They can still try that. They certainly have enough wings, but with George out, I just think it's more likely that whereas like last game, you got 0 minutes from Hartenstein in the second half, I think it's more likely that he plays like 14 total minutes instead of 7. And, maybe the closing lineup is small for the Clippers and maybe Joe Val isn't out there, but I'm a lot less concerned about it if you're just talking about like 4 or 5 minutes of the Clippers playing small at the end of the game compared to an entire half of them trying to shoot Joe Val off the floor.
For sure. Any other thoughts here on the Pels that we haven't touched on?
No.
Okay.
If the game does go small, Larry Nance is, I think, where you want to be.
Agreed. Yep. All right. And how many minutes are you giving to Trey Murphy today, given that Brandon Ingram foul trouble isn't something we're expecting again?
I gave him 16. He
sounds right.
Clearly picked up minutes from both. And then also the thing you have to keep in mind with Murphy too is, he was ahead of Najee Marshall last game in terms of playing time. There's no guarantee he is again. So like that's another risk factor as well. But I think the big thing is that unless Ingram is in foul trouble again, you can't expect those 22 minutes.
For sure. All right. Hey, live before lock coming up next. You got Greg Ehrenberg, Eric Lindquist, and a 15-minute. We got a post lock show. I don't know if it's 15 or 30. Is it still 15? We didn't change it back to 30. I thought we were going to. No, you're right.
I'm here.
You're right.
I'm
it
here
says 15.
I'm
just saying. It was a conversation the other day. That's all. But those guys got you covered. And then they'll take you past lock as well. You see there's 100K up top for the Showdown contest tonight?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, 100K up top.
For both of them?
For the night one. Or you know what I mean, for the late one.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'm going to play that then. I was going to say if it's for the 7:31, I hadn't looked, so I don't have time. But yeah, I guess I know what I'm doing tonight.
Yeah, unless I read it wrong. I don't think I did.
No, I was kind of surprised they didn't have bigger ones last time.
Yeah, 100K. Hey, hit that thumbs up too. We're at 300 likes. Much love. If we could pull 400 on a 2-game slate, I'd be happy. We got over 1,600 people watching today. That would make my day and my weekend. And it would, make it so we still have jobs. That's not true. They wouldn't get rid of us for that, but it's still helpful. All right. Let's shout out all our people in the Awesemo Hall of Fame. Show some love to everybody who tweeted us at Awesemo. HOF is representing the Awesemo avatar, which you can find at awesemo.com/avatar. And all those who are winning that free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum, $90 value. Boom, right there. All you got to do, download the Awesemo profile picture, use it on DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo, wherever it is you play. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. You can't chop with more than 3 or, we'd be giving them away all the time. We already give a lot of them away, but and tweet your wins at Awesemo, HOF. Get a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. More importantly, get your name up here during the Hall of Fame, during the best damn DFS show there is. Great kid. Shout out to Awesemo_com. Got to thank Player Q DFS. That's our boy Neil Orfield for this one. Never would have put this one out there if I didn't listen to Live Before Lock yesterday. If you're not checking them out, you're probably losing. Nice job, man. 5K solo shot, first place, up top, $1,000. U498, Chris Davis, Awesemo for the win. Thanks, Ben. It's mixing up the sports. Thanks, Ben and Jason, for the research and hard work. Do I get any promos for this huge hit? Yeah, definitely. 5,000, second place, $100,000. That's got to be. I don't know how many people players were in it, but if it's 5,000 or more, you got it, man. Congrats. And then Justin, baseball season's off to a good start. FanDuel MLB single game winner, back-to-back nights, 510K. Boom. Michael Campbell, when the host thought he was getting a $5 super chat for his fifth today and didn't realize he was getting needled. I don't know what that means, but congrats. 25.
Greg came in fifth. And so I don't know exactly what happened, but I think Greg came in fifth, and then they $5 super chatted Greg to make fun of him coming in fifth in a tournament that they won.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's Mike Cam. Okay. Got you. $2,500. A real gentleman. Congrats, Mike. And then our boy, El Negro Loco, News God. Fun night. Thanks, Odd Shopper. Hey, been crushing it with those parlays, man. Bing, bang, boom. 15 in the 361, 25 in the 342. That's a nice night. Congrats, everyone. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. You've been inducted, and welcome back if you've been here before. All right. Wrap it up with the LA Clippers, and then we'll send it over to the boys for LBL. So no Paul George today. Let's start from the top down. Reggie Jackson already played 42 minutes. He got in a little bit of foul trouble, too, at the end of the first half. Like, he could have played 44, 45.
Yeah, and I mean, I expected him to play a ton again today. If George was in, now I certainly expect him to play a lot. Still not going higher than 40 just because shit happens, but wouldn't be surprising if he exceeds that. And at 40, he still looks like arguably the best play on the slate at 6,100. Like, he looked like one of the best plays this morning when we thought George was in. Now you get a bump in usage rate. They're going to need him on the floor. The only negative for Reggie Jackson with George being out is it increases the chances that he sees a healthy diet of Herbert Jones, which is not ideal for scoring fantasy points. But at this price tag and with that many minutes, I just don't really care all that much. We're all the Luke Kennard news is pretty big too, though, because especially with George out, because like, if Kennard's in, I think it's likely he plays into the mid-20s if he can. You know, it's a hamstring injury, so it's a legit lower body injury that's kept him out. But if he's out, you know, that is more minutes that are available for potentially Terrence Mann, or maybe, you know, Amir Coffey gets into the rotation. So that does have an impact. That is something that we're going to, you know, have to wait and see how that goes. But I think that, you know, Jackson, one way or the other, looks really good. I think Norman Powell looks good. My guess is that he moves into the starting lineup. That's kind of just a guess, but he played 26 minutes last game. I have him in for 30 right now. 5,300 without Paul George, I think looks very good for him. George being out makes me feel more comfortable with Zubac's minutes as well. He played like 31 last game. I have him in for 30 here, but
Hartenstein played 7 in the first and never came back.
Yeah. They went small in the second half there. Part of that, I mean, Towns was in foul trouble and everything, but the thing that concerns me about the Clippers bigs, regardless of matchup, is just that when they're healthy, when they have Paul George, they can run such good lineups without a big that, you know, it's not as simple as, like, I saw somebody in chat, you know, talking about how Towns was in foul trouble and Minnesota was small and all that, which is true. But from a game plan standpoint, the Clippers can put teams in really uncomfortable situations, even if they have a big, by saying, like, okay, you can leave Joval out there and we will have Marcus Morris and Covington and Paul George running around.
And we'll shoot the lights out from three.
Yeah. Right, exactly. But that's just less likely to happen when you don't have Paul George. So it makes me, not that I'm giving Zubats a bunch more minutes. I gave Hartenstein more minutes. I gave him 7 and 7 instead of 7 and 0. But it makes me, you know, more confident that barring foul trouble, Zubats does get those 30 minutes, because I just think it's harder for them to go small. That's even more true if Kennard is out as well. Marcus Morris should play more at 5K. Nick Batum looks better at 4,200. So priority-wise, I think Jackson, Powell, Zubats are at the top. Jackson 1, Powell, Zubats like the next tier. Then I think Morris and Batum. And then I think it's a step back to, like, Covington is the next guy. And then I don't have a ton of interest anywhere else unless you're just throwing darts at Hartenstein and hoping that Zubats gets in foul trouble or something. If Kennard is out, I think it makes all of, you know, like the Morris Batum guys look better, but it would also make Covington look better. It would make Mann look better as well.
Norman Powell, such like a huge question mark, not in the sense of, you know, can he score, but like if Norman Powell, who played 27 minutes last game and had only been back for 2 games following that injury that sidelined them for almost 2 months, like if he gets north of 30 today in a must-win game, which is very much possible, jumping from 27 to 31, even 32 without Paul George is doable. 30, put it this way, what's Norman Powell's price point on this team in the regular season in like a meaningful regular season game where everyone's getting full run without Paul George on the floor? He's not 5,300.
8K plus.
You think so, Norman Powell?
If you're saying if he was fully healthy,
yeah, like starter minutes.
Yeah, if he was playing 36, 38 minutes, 8K plus.
Yeah, right. And I'm not saying he gets to 36, 38, but I don't think 32, 33 is out of the realm of possibilities even a little bit tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I have him at 30, and he's still in like every top projected lineup I make.
Right.
He has like a 29% usage rate since coming to the Clippers. Not that it's a huge sample, but there's nobody really that you're expecting to shoot the ball other than Reggie Jackson. At high volume. Like it would be shocking if Reggie Jackson and Norman Powell are not the 2 highest usage guys on this team tonight.
No question. Super chat. I'll get both of them. I know there was another one too. Ray 205K, is Bogdanović a go?
Most recent thing I saw was that he's on the floor warming up. The Atlanta beat writer said he looks good, said he looks fine, and then followed it up by saying, "But I'm also not a doctor." So my assumption all day has been that he's good to go. He's on the floor warming up. We should, I assume, find out.
Yeah, he's a game time decision a lot too.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, it's not like Bogdanović being questionable is unusual.
Right. Not at all. Michael Nelson, first-time commenter, long-time listener. Great work, guys. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you supporting us with the badge, too, repping the Awesemo fam. Goody, what are the most what team are you most interested in getting a lot of? I'm leaning heavy Pels and Joval and Clippers runbacks. And on a 2-game slate, you're going to likely end with a good amount of every team.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have a lot of all of them, but I think the teams that I'm going to get the most of
Clippers
are the Clippers
are
and Pels. I think that's the case for pretty much everybody.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Powell's just so cheap.
Right. There's only, with it being the playoffs, so pricing today isn't tight by any stretch, but there's still only one team that has had news that affected the pricing at all. So even though there were already underpriced Clippers, now they just look even better without George. Whereas every other team, they look like there's plenty of guys that look good, but the Clippers are like the only team that has people that are even more underpriced. So clearly you're going to be getting there a lot. And then the Pels are wildly underpriced also.
Reggie Jackson was 7,500 before Paul George came back. He got as high as $8,800, which is too much, but just like in this sense, with all of the prices not being reflective or reflecting Paul George's absence, everybody's going to look good. And you can't really get away from that, especially because a lot of the minutes here are guaranteed. The weird thing about the Clippers, though, is like, and it doesn't really matter for Powell, like you said, really doesn't. If he gets you 35, 36, awesome. But if he plays 29, 30, it probably is still good. The biggest question mark for me is really if it's a Zubac in terms of how many minutes does he play today, because him and Hartenstein, like he had a slight edge, but we're talking like, 53, 47% when it came to minutes over the last couple of months of the season, outside of one of those guys just getting hot or the other getting in foul trouble.
Yeah. Hartenstein to me, like if I had to guess what relatively cheap, relatively low owned guy just breaks the slate, it would be Hartenstein. Right now we have him projected for sub 1% ownership. If that's the case, I think he's a good play in tournaments. Not that he projects that well, and obviously you can't be very confident in him. He played 7 minutes last game, but you also, I think one thing, especially if you are playing a lot of lineups in tournaments on these 2-game slates, is you want to think about like everybody is drawing very, very like strict conclusions from what happened in one game against a totally different team. And in this case, also with Paul George. So you do kind of want to think through, like, what are the most reasonable spots where the rotation could just be different than people expect? And then the follow-up question is there anybody in that rotation that gets more minutes that is actually a good point per minute guy? And Hartenstein's a very good point per minute guy. He has slate winning upside if Zubac gets in foul trouble, if they just split minutes. Like there's ways for Hartenstein to be one of the best tournament plays, one of the best values tonight. It's not the most likely outcome, but he doesn't need that much to go right to get there.
I know. It's a tricky spot for sure. Very tricky spot. All right. We had one more super chat, I think, and we're 20 likes away from 400. We're going to get there. We got 1,700 people hanging with us on a Friday night. Life is good, man. My filler arc. So Reggie Jackson or Powell as captain for Showdown. I haven't looked. I would say either of those guys, based on pricing, is entirely reasonable. Adam.
Yeah, I haven't looked. I found out 5 minutes ago that there was a good Showdown slate, but yeah, it depends on pricing and ownership, but I would think that they are at the top of the list or towards the top of the list of guys that you would want.
Jackson's 11-1 in the captain spot. Powell's 10-2. So I would go Jackson there. But ownership is huge. Like Jackson is going to be insanely popular as a captain.
One other thing to touch on, because I kind of forgot to get back to it. I had said that I am assuming that Powell starts. I think if he doesn't start, the most likely second candidate would be Covington. If that's the case, I would still expect around 26 minutes from Powell, and he would still look good at 5,300, but it would also signal more minutes for Covington and make him look a lot better at 4,500.
Do you think you get something weird where like Man starts?
I'd be surprised with Powell being back.
Me too. With what? Covington back?
With Powell back. Like,
yeah.
If it was just if like Kennard's out and Powell were out and George was out, I would guess that Covington was starting in place of George, but it wouldn't be shocking if Man started. Now it's kind of like if they want to go with, the bigger guy, then you go Covington. If you want to go with the scorer, you go Powell. I don't really know what exactly you're going for if you go Man.
Right. And on my filler arc, Reggie Jackson, we have him 16.2% in the captain spot. We have Norm Powell at 8% in the captain spot today for that Showdown. We have Showdown projections and ownership and all of that up over at Awesemo.com. Remember, we got USFL. Yeah, projections up. Click the link in the description below if you want to get in on that. And we will turn it over to, Oliver real quick said, what Awesemo host would win or lose a beer chugging contest? I don't know.
I lose.
Yeah, you're not good at chugging?
I'm awful.
Okay. Alex,
it is
Adam.
an embarrassment.
Oh, I guess producers aren't included, but I have video evidence of a pitcher of beer chug in 29 seconds from my senior year of college.
That's solid. We'd have to differentiate though between like bottle, can, or pitcher, because pitcher's easy to chug, but that's still impressive. Don't get me wrong. Tyler Zander, appreciate him producing this show. As always, one guy for $1 million under 3,500 DraftKings. All right, Adam, I know you got to go. We got this show coming up quickly. If you have one guy under 3.5K in the DraftKings utility spot, who would it be? We'll close with that.
Honestly, none of them. I think you can make better lineups. Like you can improve whatever the lineup is that you have. But if you don't have Joval, Larry Nance, otherwise, if you don't have Capella, Okongwu, otherwise, I guess Rondo, and hope that Bickerstaff really doesn't want a job next year.
All right. Yeah, seriously. That'll do it for us. Appreciate you guys as always. Eric and Greg coming up next, taking you up to lock in 15 minutes through it. We'll catch you back here tomorrow. Let's go. Saturday, Sunday, good basketball coming up, and happy Easter to those of you who celebrate it. We'll see you soon. Peace. Oh, yeah.
Same. The mind meld today. Mind meld.
What is going on, guys? This is the Awesemo NBA Live Before Lock Show. We are sponsored by Underdog today. I'm once again hanging out with Eric, but instead of chopping up baseball, it's going to be basketball, 2-game slate. So not quite as much going on as when we talked about the 11-game baseball slate, but it means a little more room for fun, a little more to really dive into the weeds on every individual player. And, usually at this point in the season, you would think every team is fully healthy. There's no injury news to talk about. Oh, contraire. Paul George ruled out of nowhere this afternoon. Luke Kennard is questionable. Bogdan Bogdanovic is questionable. Jared Allen was questionable. He is now expected to play. Eric, how are you feeling about this slate?
Well, yeah, 30 seconds after we got off the MLB show, we got the Paul George bombshell. You were able to react to that one pretty quickly. For me, I have to get used to this the two-factor authentication out here to get through all the things that I need to. I'm in Arizona here for the weekend for Easter, and so I was able to actually get some coin on this, which is actually a huge improvement. California, get on your stuff. So fun. I also took advantage of the premium bets Discord where Alex Baker, Steve Buzzard, they posted a lot of free, not free, but premium plays in order to be able to get out there and to try to make some money. So I'm looking forward to this slate more than most.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are looking forward to the games. I'm certainly going to be anticipating that Clippers Pelicans game. I swear, if the Clippers win this game, after I bet on them, live bet after Cat got in foul trouble again. Because I have a not insignificant amount of money on the Pelicans today. And it's like the same amount of money that I lost betting on the Clippers the other day. It would just be the most annoying for me string of games in a row if it was to be that I lose betting on and against the Clippers, both in games that the other one they should have won. And if they would have won that game, this game never would have happened, which would have been a whole nother can of worms. But Paul George being out, obviously not something that we were expecting at all. And just kind of something I know this is a question we're going to get. How many Clippers players for a 2-game slate are you willing to put into your lineups?
I think you could do 5. I'm probably not going to. I think that really what it comes down to is that these are going to be extended minutes for every single starting unit. And that kind of makes it a little bit more difficult. If this were a regular season 2-gamer, I think I would find myself landing on 5 Clippers pretty easily. But because of the implications for all 4 teams involved, win or go home, you're seeing minutes kind of allocated everywhere. And there's only so much opportunity, usage, points, scoring, fantasy goodness to go around. So I'm actually just going to be playing 4 maximum. I immediately thought when that news came out, oh God, we're going to play like 5, 6 of these guys in lineups. Not really the case, especially because that front court is difficult for me to figure out exactly what I want to do based on Hartenstein just disappearing, even though he's been one of the best players in terms of plus minus, in terms of wins above replacement on this basketball team. Out of the middle of nowhere, just plays 7 minutes. And that has me feeling very, very uneasy about what we could expect going up against a Pelicans team that obviously has one gigantic big in J-Val, but has the ability to go small alongside them. I'm going to be capping at 4 and living with the result for the Clippers side.
I have some lineups with 5. I don't have an issue with it. I just think there's so much value on the Clippers because there's no Paul George. And then you also consider the stakes of this game. I think guys like Reggie Jackson, Nick Batum, Marcus Morris, Ivica Zubac, these guys are, in my opinion, probably all going to end up playing extended minutes unless something really crazy happens. But then I think something else that we should discuss when it comes to the Clippers and, just overall talking overarching stuff, and then we'll get more into the specifics position by position after this. Who do you think is going to start in place of PG tonight?
This is a great question. Robert Covington, I think it actually makes some sense. Kind of looking at the way that the lineup set up, I think you probably put him in there. Amir Coffey would be super, super random to me. Not somebody that I expect to be really a significant part of this rotation whatsoever. Terrence Mann would be kind of strange to me as well. I think it's got to be Powell, Jackson, Zubac. Those 3 are just obvious. Marcus Morris is obvious. That 5th guy, I think it makes the most sense. Actually, Nicholas Batum would actually make the most sense, but it wouldn't surprise me if Covington ended up getting kind of a spot start either.
I feel pretty good that Terrence Mann is going to start. That's
interesting.
That's where I'm leaning with this team.
If this were the regular season, I feel that way too, but it feels, oh God, that's the uncomfortable part is you have to kind of read the tea leaves of what the Clippers did. It wasn't a win or go home scenario for them last game. So now it's all hands on deck. Terrence Mann, if he ends up starting, would instantly become a guy that I want to get to a crazy amount of. But I don't think we're going to find out until after lock what that starting lineup is going to be. That's another reason you should probably stick around for that half hour. I will say it should be easy to turn shares of Batum into Mann, Amir Coffey, if you wanted to take that shot, even though I'm not. What?
I was going to say, I think Batum's going to start too, though. Batum always starts.
Yeah, Batum always starts. I'm going through like the situations here. I mean, Norman Powell, I'm assuming like it would make a lot of sense to have him come in there, but seems like a guy that they're going to be bringing off the bench, even though we have those pre-notions just based on his time in Portland and going back to Toronto that he could be that guy pretty clearly. But I'm more inclined to think that you're right. There's a lot of paths that it could go in this kind of a scenario. Norman Powell, I think, is the chalk based on projections. But regardless, I'm going to have crazy amount of Norman Powell interest. I would feel very uncomfortable rostering Terrence Mann unless he's starting.
Yeah, and I think Norman Powell's also live to start, but one thing that kind of gives me a little bit of pause is I'm not sure they want to play him like 36 minutes considering the foot injury he was coming off. You know, who knows? It's a do or die game, win or go home. Maybe just all of those kind of medical concerns and all that goes out the window. You know, he did fracture his foot, and they've been extending the minutes of other guys coming back from injury, just not Powell. I thought he could have played really big minutes last game. Didn't end up being the case. He played 26 minutes. So that is one thing that makes me think maybe they don't want to give Powell the full 35, 36 minutes. If he starts, I assume all restrictions are off. He's full go. If not, I do think that there's a pretty good chance Terrence Mann moves into the starting lineup. But just to guess, really not a good feel for what it's going to be.
I mean, Norman Powell, I think, would be the chalk. I think that's the chalk answer for who might start in this spot. Would you agree with that? Like if we were to lay odds, I mean, would you be comfortable saying that Terrence Mann would be the minus 150 favorite to start?
No, I don't think anybody would be a minus 150 favorite. And then something else we have to consider too, Luke Kennard is questionable. Kennard could start for all we know. Kennard could also sit. So that's something else that adds a whole nother wrinkle into the equation is that here are the players I think are live to start. Powell, Mann, Kennard, Covington, Amir Coffey. Those five are all potential guys to start. My guess is going to be Terrence Mann, but there's nobody who I would say is like greater than 40 or even 35% a chance to start.
Again, I'm with you there. I am going to kind of scatter the board along what am I trying to even say? I'm just going to scatter the board with a lot of Clippers here today, and so is everybody else. But it's also just kind of having the swaps figured out, what to do, what you're going to do with each one specifically. Looking at FanDuel, Batum, 4,400, Mann, 4,300. Pretty easy to also make that work considering they both share the small forward spot. If you're hand building, that should be an easy thing to kind of consider what you might want to do in that kind of a regard. Just because if you do get Terrence Mann starting, I prioritize him so much higher than Nicholas Batum. Nicholas Batum, I don't really know what those minutes are going to look like in this scenario. God, it's just such an uncomfortable thing because everything I've thought I knew about the Clippers coming down the stretch of the season was kind of flipped on its head based on the minutes we saw in the Minnesota game. He did get up to 28 there in that spot. And Terrence Mann is a guy going back to the Utah series last year. Sure, they're right about the exact same fantasy point per minute rate, but just current ownership, I can't imagine that people would just be inclined to just switch the two. I think Nicholas Batum ends up higher owned regardless of what that starting news is. If Terrence Mann is alongside Batum, that is. But God, yeah, Nicholas Batum, probably the most uncomfortable roster out of anybody on the Clipper side for me in the starting five.
You know, it's funny. Somebody in chat, it was Kevin Himes there, said, how does Coffey go from 0 minutes to starting? Well, if you've looked at some of the weird rotations Clippers have played this year, March 31st, Amir Coffey played less than a minute. The next game, he played 42 minutes and scored 60 fantasy points in a start. On April 9th, he played 4 minutes. On April 10th, he played 43 minutes and started and scored 65 fantasy points. So it's not that uncommon. We've seen Amir Coffey be a DNP and then start right afterwards. And it's been situations where Paul George was out. I think this situation is so unique. Am I guessing Amir Coffey starts? No, but is it if you're asking me for all the people that are live to start, he's on the list because we've seen him start this year.
Did somebody say Hartenstein starting? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. You should be banned from chat. Who said that? You should
now
be banned.
Now I'm rooting for Hartenstein to start after that.
Me too. Zubats and him, I believe. I've got to double check this. I'm going to find it quick. I think they've played like 2 minutes alongside each other this entire season. I was cheering for it to happen. I was just like praying to the gods that eventually it would happen because I feel like that's a group I've just had to make by default. This is just what the Clippers do. They chop up these guys. And in this scenario, once again, I find Hartenstein impossible to play if you're going to have Zubats in that lineup. So I don't have many groups set up for today, but that is definitely one of them. I've generally been a stand for both of these guys, but players on the floor, Zubats, players on the floor, Hartenstein. Again, this is a 2-game slate, so I can do stuff like this. I'm just curious. They've played a grand total of 3 minutes together this season.
Yeah, I don't expect them to start in the front court together. It's not something that I think is in the cards. You're going to like, we just got a super chat that you are really going to enjoy, Eric, a lot. Ben Anthony super chat. Eric deserves a raise. Are you on board with them so far?
I mean, Ben Anthony, you're my homie. Yeah, I do. I think I do. I mean, who else covers NBA, MLB, NFL, PGA here at Awesemo.com? It is me. Myself and I, also Ben Anthony, might be my burner account. It's okay.
Well, there's more to this.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
I don't know what that was in reference
my baseball lineups.
Oh, your baseball lineups. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so the rest. Eric deserves a raise. Eric deserves a raise. Yeah, let's go Astros today. Eric deserves a raise. He takes too much shit from everybody. I think he doesn't take enough, so we're at odds here. However, do you guys have much Hartenstein to try to get different? Not today. It's like we just said, him and Zubats have not shared the court this year. And then the other thing also, when it comes to that, Zubats is playing extended minutes, right? Or at least if we're going to use last game as kind of a mold for what we think could happen, Zubats played extended minutes with them not sharing the court together. I think it would take foul trouble for Hartenstein to play extended minutes. It's hard for me to want to get to him when he played 7 minutes last game. Eric, you are a Hartenstein stan, as you just said. And we know that you've played quite a bit of Hartenstein over the last, month, 6 weeks ago or 6 weeks or so. What are you going to be doing with him today? Are you playing him at all?
Yeah, I have some shares. This is just not a spot to get carried away. Obviously, 7 minutes, you are now getting a massive. If he had played 15 minutes last game, we would see some pretty substantial ownership going his direction. I got to be thinking if you can project him out for anything over 10 right now at 4,600 because he's nearly a 1.2 DraftKings points per minute guy, 1.17 on the entire season. There's an opportunity for him to show up. He's actually the offensive rating leader amongst all Clippers not named Paul George this season, a 127 offensive rating with him on the floor this season. I think Hartenstein's a guy that's like an ace up the Clippers sleeves where if they are in a lot of dire straits, he could be a guy who can be a catalyst on both ends of the floor. I think he's really showed out this season as somebody that has made substantial improvements as a basketball player, going back to his Houston days and, his short stint in Denver. He's shown the ability to be a bucket or to create in an offense. I doubt, though, that this works out a large majority of the time. So it's hard to get on a 2-game slate and say, oh, I recommend this guy. But he's under 1% owned. I already project him for 10 minutes. I think that that's enough for me, under 1% on a 2-game slate for a guy that I truly think is one of the better fantasy point per minute guys. This isn't like I'm taking a shot on a Rodney Hood, who's a 0.52 fantasy point per minute guy who isn't projected for minutes. I mean, this is a guy who can actually be serviceable. Yeah, he's 4,600, but if he goes out and he beats anybody else in that range, you're winning tournaments. You're not just placing.
Yeah, and it's a 2-game slate. It's reasonable to try to do stuff to differentiate. For me, Hartenstein is not the guy. I'm actually, let me see what the most recent ownership is. I mean, to me, I think the guy to differentiate the most with is Terrence Mann, projected for a little over 10% ownership. It's hard to find those guys on a slate like this where it's like a sub 10% owned guy or something like that. Maybe people go to Rondo. Actually, I think because of just biases and narratives, I think Rondo is going to be higher owned than what what his ownership projections are. I would say that's somebody you could take a shot on for GPPs, but he's probably going to be, more popular than the current 8% ownership on DK and 5% on FanDuel. I would actually expect Rondo to probably be close to like 20% in this spot. Do you think that's reasonable to assume?
Oh, I'm totally with you. And I mean, we're looking at an assist prop, not to take away a read from you, but I mean, we're a team here. There's an E in team. There's no G, but you know what I'm getting at. We're a team. So Alex Baker had posted under 5.5 assists. That exists over on BetMGM, exists over on DK, a number of spots where you can find this line if you're in the state of Arizona, if you're in the state of New Jersey, if you're in the state of New York, places where you have legalized sports betting, you have an opportunity to bet that under. And I think it's one of the best, if not the best, that exists on the board. You're paying slight juice, like -115, -120 in a number of these spots. You go to @Awesemo Bets, you get those sent to your phone every single day for free. And free 99 is the best kind of 99.
Yeah, and one other thing I'm going to add to that, when it comes to Rondo, something else you could do, here's something that I bet on, and I was DMing Alex about it before. You could also take, because the unders on Rondo props are very predicated on his minutes, and who knows what his minutes are going to look like, because he was hardly in the rotation for most of his time with Cleveland. Then to get into a play-in scenario, and they're like, all right, let's play Rondo 26 minutes. But I still think there's a pretty good chance those minutes go down. That's what we're expecting. But here's what you could do. You could take all of those under props, rebounds, points, assists, put them in a same game parlay. And then if he actually does end up playing like 12 minutes, then you get really high upside odds on taking all the unders on Rondo and parlaying them together in a same game parlay. So that's something else that I like doing from a...
Why are you so sharp? It's annoying.
I don't take compliments. Well, I'll explain.
Okay, then I'm done. Fuck you.
Yeah. No. I'd much see, somebody in the chat before, he was saying that if I got made fun of as much as you, I would be crying. I would way prefer to get made fun of than people saying nice things about me.
Let's switch places, please.
Yeah, I don't want people to say nice things about me. I don't enjoy it. It's very uncomfortable.
Well,
do you not feel that way at all?
No, I love compliments. I love being told that I'm special and nice. Why do you think I'm hanging out with my parents? Eric, you are so great.
I don't know, but like for me, because especially I think it's part of the area I'm from, living like the New York, New Jersey area, is if somebody says to me, "Oh, look, that's a nice shirt you're wearing," I think there's something wrong with it. That's just my group of friends where I came up from, being in comedy. If somebody says to me, "Hey, look, you look like a piece of shit. That shirt is stupid. Why would you wear that? That's dumb looking. How come you're wearing a shirt with McLovin on it?" That makes me feel more comfortable. If somebody says to me that I just look nice or whatever, I'll be like, all right, what's wrong? Something must be amiss. That's at least my mentality with stuff.
Greg, you're smart, you're beautiful, and people like you.
Ugh. No? Anyway, that's kind of my mindset where I come from and how me, my friends, my family interact. We just make fun of each other.
You suck, you jackass. Is that better?
Yes. More.
Hey, we're going to Sizzler. My treat.
We've got some more super chats here to answer. Let me scroll back. Here we go. From Luis Jose Lopez. Who are the must plays on FanDuel GPP? So how about we look at who are in your FanDuel build, Eric? Who are your 5 most rostered players? I'll read off mine right now. It is Reggie Jackson, Norman Powell, Trae Young, Darius Garland, and CJ McCollum.
I like all of those. I have one other. It is Jared Allen. Jared Allen for tournament, 6,100. Yeah, you're embracing some unknowns. We have him projected for 27 minutes, but I think there's a wide, and I do mean wide, range of outcomes here. Jared Allen is a stalwart in the middle of the paint. I mean, he closed an all-star game. That doesn't mean anything to me. I just don't know why my brain went there. But 6,100 for Jared Allen, where you can play him at power forward as well, has so much utility for me on FanDuel, sub 40%. If this was 2 months ago, and I told you Jared Allen was 6,100, he would be 75, 80% owned on a 2-game slate. I'm just putting the blinders on the fact that we haven't seen him in a while, because this is a finger issue. I bet he's still got his cardio in since March 6th. So if Jared Allen is healthy, if he's been practicing, if we're good to go here, there's an opportunity for him to play well north of 30 minutes. Like I don't give it the best. Like I'd give it like a 40% chance or a 35% chance that he plays more than 28. but there's such an opportunity where if he's all right out there, if he's looking good, he could just go out and play 38 minutes in a must-win game. He's kind of earned the right to be out on the floor with his defensive performance over the course of this entire season. So Jared Allen at 6,100, probably the guy that I think is going most overlooked on this entire slate amongst starters on all 4 teams.
It's tough to figure out the minutes for Jared Allen. It's another one, wide range of outcomes. The other thing too, it was a finger injury. It's not like he's coming off surgery or some kind of significant lower body injury. He broke a finger, and it was something where I believe it was recommended he get surgery, but he didn't want to because he wanted a chance to come back this year. I have to assume he's been getting himself in shape for this, and as long as he's playing okay, I think they're going to give him extended run. So I don't know what the floor is, but I know that the ceiling is really high. I
love YouTube chat. You guys are the best. Greg looks nice today. Who hurt you, Greg? Greg, we have a $10 super chat for you. I'm going to let you read that because it's beautiful. Greg, you should explore your childhood trauma. Everybody is really either worried about you or is just an absolute troll and can't wait to just tap more into it.
Yeah, I think that this would not be a place to dive into childhood traumas. But listen, there's I'll tell you that somebody doesn't become a comedian and then just gamble full time and talk to strangers on the internet for likes and YouTube subscriptions and all that without some stuff that's popped up in the past.
That's a justified point.
Anyway, like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel because it is very important to us. More super chats to answer first from Michael McKinney. My favorite duo, 2 payout. That was kind of confusing because he said duo and then 2, but we're our favorite duo. Thank you, Michael McKinney. He's asking his normal question, FanDuel Cash, 2 favorite payout options, 3 favorite value plays. Boy, I'll say this. It is hard to find only 2 pay-up options today because I think you should be playing Trae Young, Darius Garland, and CJ McCollum all in cash games today. And I think that it's pretty viable to get all 3 of them in. Do you agree with that, or is there one of them that you would cut off?
It's going to be close. I think Brandon Ingram or CJ McCollum, you're playing one of the 2. Depends which build. And I tried to make just like a cash build screwing around before the show, just because we always get a lot of cash questions on these 2 game slates. Thought I'd actually be prepared for once. Trae Young is a lock. Darius Garland is a lock. Whether or not you want to go CJ McCollum or Brandon Ingram is kind of up to you. And because you can play power forwards at a center position, obviously I like Jared Allen more than the average bear. That's more of a tournament situation. If you want to embrace that for tournaments, for cash, so be it, but probably don't have to. I'm just so inclined. And from a value perspective, Reggie Jackson, Marcus Morris, like lock those 2 in, move on with your day. Norman Powell. There you go.
Yeah, he asked for 3. I think we could both be on the same page as saying those are our 3. You could say
you're
Nick
playing
Batum
4 Clippers probably in cash.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And to me, those 4 are Reggie Jackson, Norman Powell, Marcus Morris, and Nick Batum.
Yep, perfect.
All right, so that is going to settle that. Eric and I are all on the same page today. Teddy Wayman, thoughts on Garland today on FanDuel? Love him. I think that Darius Garland is going to play a massive amount of minutes. Played 39 last time out, and there's a chance for even more. He played 39 while kind of struggling at times in the first half. So I think we probably see north of 40 minutes today from Garland. I don't see any way around. You just play a lot of him.
Yeah, smash city.
Let's see. Where are we at right now on Darius Garland's projected ownership right now on FanDuel? 62%. For those who are interested in such things. On DraftKings, I'll give it out as well. Garland projected for 47% ownership on DK. Next super chat is, well, now there's just a bunch of comments of people who are just either trying to make me feel comfortable, uncomfortable, or all the above. This super chat from our guy, Jorge Jacome, saying, Greg, you are sexy, amazing, beautiful, and such a great person and DFS player and the best in the universe. I know you mean well when you say that, so I appreciate it.
You read that like a person dead inside.
Well, because I am, but that does definitely make me uncomfortable. It's too many compliments at once. You know, because if somebody gave you 6 compliments, you'd be like, that's a little weird. Why so many? There's a catch.
I know. Usually that's what I get to. It's fine. And then they offer me candy and it's okay.
Yeah. And then you get in their van.
I do.
Yeah.
How else am I going to make the DFS entry fees?
That actually reminds me of my childhood trauma.
Oh, I just remembered.
Yeah. Oh, that is what happened. That's why I don't trust people now.
It's funny because it's true, but
yeah, 100%. Did you ever have a situation like that where you look back, it's like, oh, that was a little sketchy?
Oh yeah, totally. Oh yes. If you haven't, you're probably still in denial.
Yeah, if it didn't happen to you, it's because you subconsciously blocked out of your memory, and it happened.
Yeah,
it happened to all of us.
Yeah. Luckily I was fast. I just ran. You just run that way.
By the way, we should hit on Bogdan Bogdanovic is going to be playing today. What are your expectations for him? Because he banged up his ankle last game. He kind of struggled, made it through. I find it hard to trust Bogdanovic. Here's something else that I think makes sense. Before, when I was talking about parlaying the unders for Rajon Rondo, maybe take a look at Bogdan Bogdanovic and the alternate lines for him. There's some sports books that'll say like, oh, even though his line is 17.5 points, there's the alternate where it's like under 13.5 at plus 200 and stuff like that. I'm not totally convinced he's healthy right now. That's a kind of bet that I'd be interested in making on Bogdan Bogdanovic. Just saying maybe he isn't totally healthy. Does that make sense to you? And also, what are your expectations for him in this slate?
Well, I mean, I got a lot of crap for full fading the most popular play on the slate last slate. That worked out pretty well. Now,
yes, it did.
Whether or not he's hurt or not is not really the discussion. The discussion is he's 36%. And what is he relative to his chances of being successful? I go to the boom bust tool once again, and you have an opportunity now this time around to get some positive leverage on Bogdanovic. So I'm not as vehemently against going to him over on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's kind of intriguing because if he ends up being more popular than what I think he is at 6,400, I mean, he was 7,100 last slate. This just comes down to like, what do I truly see his ceiling game being? And I think his ceiling game is still one that can go out and, you know, nobody's going to just individually win you a tournament on a 2-gamer unless you play Hartenstein and nobody else has him on a site like DraftKings. But on FanDuel, I mean, Bogdanovic, 37%. If he goes for his ceiling game, you're going to absolutely need him at 6,400. Whereas I don't necessarily see that being the case for some of the guys on his team alongside him. Like Kevin Huerter was a combination piece with Hunter, but there were paths to building lineups where you were okay without both of them. Not if you played Miles Bridges, but that's a different story for a different day. By Charlotte, Bogdanovic, I think, is much better, more palatable for me as a play this slate. But your concerns are definitely there and they're valid. But now I'm not paying 55%. I'm not playing a 55% Bogdanovic on DraftKings. He's still got a 37.4% optimal appearance rate in the tools. I think that's good enough where I'm actually going to be closer to the field today.
Under 13.5 points for Bogdan Bogdanovic, plus 225. That's
pretty good. That's a great way to also hedge if you're going to be playing. I mean, I'm not going to be playing 50% Bogdanovic, so I don't really care. I might just play the 25-30% I plan on playing and then still bet that.
We got a follow-up question from Jorge. Real question, he says. Now, you didn't have to leave us another super chat. We appreciate it, but you could have just thrown this into the YouTube chat. But anyway, the real question from Jorge after he showered me with praise. Real question one, who are your top 3 favorite players below 4K for DK large entry GPPs? And second, would you pair Capella and Valanciunas together? I have no issue with having Capella and Valanciunas in the same lineup. I don't think that's problematic. Do you have any concern with that?
I think you said this last week. The word is not favorite. The word is which ones can I stand rostering the most underneath 4K? Because outside of Okongwu, who I don't actually want to be playing that much of. I mean, I think the exact same case I made last time around where if something happens to Capella, you know exactly who's going to be on the cleanup crew there, and that's Okongwu. This is this is another just all hands on deck game here. And they just proved that they are going to let Capella have full reign. So unless there's foul trouble, I mean, we still had 17 minutes. So we do expect Okongwu to play a little bit better. He's exactly a fantasy point per minute guy on DraftKings for the season. So, but now he's the most popular of the grouping. I will say, if I'm going to go sub 4K on DraftKings, Larry Nance Jr. is number 1 for me. I think there's a path for him to have a lot of utility in this game, depending on what the Clippers do. I mean, the Clippers played some crazy, and I mean crazy small lineups against Rudy Gobert. Maybe they try to install something similar to Jonas Valanciunas, but the playoff series they had against Gobert was just like a mastery in terms of coaching, and Ty Lue just ran him out of the gym, or ran Snyder out of the gym in terms of coaching in that series. So I think there's a path to Larry Nance if they follow that blueprint to try to go a little bit smaller. He makes the most sense, 3,400. I think the next guy, and this is weird because I just feel a little bit more confident than I should. Najee Marshall is 3,600, and he has some utility where he can play a number of different positions, small forward, power forward there, decent enough defender, played well in those 12 minutes, even though it didn't show up in fantasy goodness. We saw Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum. They're going to be on the floor a lot. They're going to be guys that the Clippers target defensively, and there's a path for 3,600 Najee Marshall, I think, to be all right at 1%. But that just tells you how vehemently against Rajon Rondo I am. I don't want to be playing a popular Okongwu. So those are my two. If you want to give a third, go right ahead.
It's tough. Here's my actual preference is there's no need to today. There is so much value.
Right. That's probably the right answer. But I know I'm playing, 150 lineups. I'm going to have a couple shares of these guys.
Yeah. And I think that's reasonable. Same as who I think Isaac Okoro. I think that he could be back in the rotation today and take the minutes that Rajon Rondo took from him last game. That's a possibility, but I don't really want to play him that much in DFS. Same goes for, you said Okongwu. I guess he's viable. Delon Wright, but there's nobody would you agree with this at least? There's nobody sub 4K that warrants more than 10% ownership.
Oh, no question for me, but I can guarantee you people are going to have more than 10% of Rondo.
Yeah, for sure. And I could see the reason why. He played a bunch of minutes last game. If he gets those same minutes today, he's a really good play. I don't know that that's going to be the case. And I kind of feel like it's chasing points from last time, but maybe I'm just off base and they're just going to play him the same minutes he did last game because he was kind of competent last time out. And maybe they need that spark off the bench.
I mean, it was very strange. They were down really, really quickly. They were down 8 right out of the gate when Rondo hit the floor there at the 3:52 mark. I didn't expect Rondo to check in on the first sub. I think we could all kind of agree that that was something that I didn't anticipate. You didn't anticipate. Most people didn't. But we can't just expect that that's what they're going to do this time around. And I think that's what really the trap of playing playoff DFS is everybody just predicts the exact same thing that happened because, it's the same teams matching up. And I'm not talking about this instance because I know that it's not the same matchup, but going forward, you have to be able to say, teams make adjustments. They do different things. I find it more likely that Rondo doesn't play the floor, doesn't see the floor, then he gets to 26 minutes in a win or go home type scenario.
Yeah, I see it the same way also. And I'm curious if I had an over under 15% ownership for Rondo on DraftKings, because I think FanDuel and DK are going to be wildly different. I don't think people are going to play Rondo heavily on FanDuel where he's 4,500 and there's a bunch of value on the slate. But if I give you over under 15% ownership for Rondo on DK, you're taking the over or the under on that number?
I think that's the fair line. I think that's that would be a stay away bet for me. I would really think he's around 14-15% on this slate.
Yeah, I do too. Maybe even higher. I
even
really
higher.
think
if you made me take a side, I would say higher.
Yeah.
It's so hard to project on a 2-game slate. And there's so many variables that go into predicting ownership. It is so insanely hard to do. And it's so easy to be the analyst up here saying, we're so short on Rondo, yada, yada, yada. Our ownership projections are the best in the industry. They've proven it. We have the best players in the industry in-house here between Rinpack, who's in chat, and also in Scottsdale. Might have to go see that young man. But also we've got Alex Baker, number 1 player in the world, Steve Buzzard, Eddie Lai, who just cleaned a house in the NBA streets this season. There's a reason that they're winning, and it's because the tools just are that good. Maybe we're way off base with this. And again, it's easy for us to look at that. It feels like a pretty isolated number where I think in a vacuum, if you look at 2 nights ago or 3 nights ago before that game happened, Rondo would be 3-4% projected like he was there in that spot. And I think that would be, it's hard to really get that to buoy all the way up to 15-16%. But I'm with you. I think it's probably going to actually be higher now that I'm talking it out.
All right, we got some more questions, Andrew. But first, do us a favor, guys, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and shout out to Underdog Fantasy, our newest sponsor who is sponsoring today's show. If you guys sign up at Underdog for the first time using the promo code Awesemo, they will double your first deposit up to $100. And there's also a lot of different contests to enter for the playoffs and really fun contest tournament styles. I know Josh Engelman has projections they put up on the site for free for the playoff contest in Underdog. It's a really fun way to draft teams where you're kind of trying to balance which teams think are going to go deep in the playoffs and also which players think are going to score a lot of fantasy points. So check out some of those contests. The drafts are really fun to do. Also, if you're looking for other DFS content, we've got USFL projections as well that Matt Gajewski put together. You can sign up for our USFL package for $14.95. All right, let's hit up some more of the questions we just got in. First, from Eddie Seja, what are the core guys for DKGPP? All right, so I think this is a good way to kind of try to just encapsulate the whole slate and round things up. Because I want to ask you, who are the 5 players you're getting the most exposure to on DK? And then let's go position by position on both DK and FanDuel and just identify who our most rostered players are at each spot. Because I think that's probably more valuable than just in general going position by position, because frankly, it's a 2-game slate. We kind of say like, hey, we're playing everybody to some extent, which does make this a little tricky. But who are the players you are getting the most exposure to on DraftKings today?
Yeah, Reggie Jackson, number one. It shouldn't really even be close. Norman Powell is kind of close, but he's still a little bit of a distant second for me. So those go 1, 2. I'm really riding the Darius Garland side of this too. I know that we got burned in that last game. CJ McCollum's been revelatory with this Pelicans team. I think the Clippers can find some ways to not necessarily stop him, but maybe slow him down a little bit more. I like going to some more Darius Garland going up against Trae Young. It feels like a spot that Darius Garland should be able to go completely nuts and do whatever he wants to. Marcus Morris fits into that build. And then for me, I love Jared Allen over on FanDuel, but we talk about center. I really think the center spot is going to be won and lost for a lot of things. And it's weird for me to say that I don't like Zubats that much, but Zubats is getting a ton of rostership. And I am very nervous about Zubats in this spot where they can go to Covington. They can go, if they decide to go Nance or something. Valanciunas on the floor probably helps him as much as possible. And Valanciunas, those minutes have just gone up. 36 against San Antonio, looked great, but was playing basically a true 5 on the other side in Jakob Poeltl. Maybe they just keep Zubats out there, but there might be some effort that they make to get Jonas Valanciunas out of there. So I'm trying to get off of the Zubats Valanciunas spot. And I am landing on more Clint Capella. I think in tournaments specifically, he's a guy that I think they just showed last game out that they want to give a majority of these minutes to. 29, looked phenomenal. They blew Charlotte out of the water. I think he would have played around 35, 36 minutes if that game was closer. Okongwu was just not a part of anything that they did. So I'm taking a pretty strong stand with Capella on DK today.
Yeah, and by the way, for anybody who's wondering, we did get the Cavaliers starting lineup. No surprise there. Jared Allen is starting. Maybe there was a small 1 or 2% chance in the back of my mind that I thought maybe they would go with the same starting lineup from last game, but not the case. Garland, LeVert, Markkanen, Mobley, Jared Allen. For the Hawks, Trae Young, Kevin Huerter, DeAndre Hunter, Danilo Gallinari, and Clint Capella. All right, let's see what else we have for Super Chats. Oh, I didn't give out the guys I have the most exposure to.
Oh, and Jared Allen is just so hard to get to on DK today. That's the rounding out the point is that center, I'm just playing a lot of Clint Capella and hoping for the best.
For me, Reggie Jackson, Norman Powell, Darius Garland, Trae Young, Marcus Morris are the players I'm currently getting the most exposure to. And then also we'll answer the rest of these questions. Then we'll just go and say who our most rostered players on both FanDuel and DraftKings, position by position. Dean is super chat, high dollar DK single entry, Zubats and Man were Reggie Jackson and Okongwu. I think you have to play Reggie Jackson today. So I'm going to go with the Reggie Jackson side.
Yeah. Even though Okongwu, we've already talked about our concerns with that. Again, if he goes nuts, if you get Capella foul trouble, and that's the main reason that I have even a couple shares of Okongwu. I made an even larger stand last slate because I was playing Capella quite a bit. And then I also wanted to make sure that Okongwu, if anything happened to Capella, I had the direct beneficiary. He's now down to 3,300. You have to play Reggie Jackson. There's no high dollar amount. He's going to be 90+% in most high dollar anything that you play today. And there's a reason for it. He's the best play on the slate.
Yeah, easily. I think if you're playing a single entry lineup, it's Reggie Jackson in one side and 2v2, 3v3 Reggie Jackson one side and on the other side. Chances are I'm going to be taking the Reggie Jackson unless it's something totally crazy where you're playing somebody who's not going to even be who's even going to be in the lineup. We've got some questions in our premium Discord channel. First from Finger 5. Yeah, that is what it is. Love or Zubats single entry on FanDuel.
Love or Zubats for single entry. I mean, Zubats is straight up the better play. I'm talking about my apprehension, though. You've got a pretty chalky lineup. I mean, Kevin Love we saw in 15 minutes. And again, this is like the most limited sample size, but that's the kind of potential Kevin Love has where he can go in 15 minutes and put a 50 kind of stuff. He's the guy that if he gets going, 5,900, played 29 minutes. I'm probably going to say in tournaments, I'm going to like Kevin Love a little bit more on a chalkier lineup. I mean, he's only 7% on DraftKings. I feel like I know Jared Allen's there, and I've already made all the cases for Jared Allen, but a Kevin Love ceiling game is still going to win you a lot of things, whereas Zubats is already a very, very popular piece.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything you said. Straight up, who do I project for more fantasy points? Zubats. But if you're just playing all of the chalk across the board, I think Kevin Love is a fine play to differentiate. But if it's not the case, then Zubats straight up. Another question on our premium Discord channel, also from Finger5. Rondo or Marcus Morris today? Marcus Morris.
Yeah, Marcus Morris, for sure.
Question from 024631. Thoughts on late swap strategy once the Clippers starters get announced? Can I just go with what is optimal, or should I have some randomness in the swap be okay? Particularly for a 2-game slate, I think you want some randomness.
You want some randomness. You want to get weird. What's really nice, people don't ever think about this enough, and I think it needs to be said. You got to know kind of how your lineups are doing compared to the field. And also if you've got 1 or 2 breakaway lineups that have like the nuts, like I had a lot of iterations of Bruce Brown and Nicholas Claxton. I chose incorrectly for the late swaps, but at least I was making some concerted efforts to see who was beating me if there were ideal lineups, because it was Kevin Love, Nicholas Claxton, and Bruce Brown that ended up in most of the winning lineups on DraftKings. And I had a feeling that Kevin Love was going to be a player that you needed based on that salary spot, but Jared Vanderbilt. So there were a couple of spots where I just had to get off of Jared Vanderbilt and find paths to get a little bit different at power forward, because I knew the forward spot was probably eaten up by how much salary was remaining on lineups that were ahead of me. So you have to make some strong decisions based on how your lineups are doing after that first game, using that information to inform what you're supposed to do. Because if your goal is to just min cash, so be it. Like, react to the news, play the best plays and move on. But if you're trying to win tournaments, you got to really make a very strong effort to know how you're doing and then adjust your late swaps accordingly. So that for me is always the goal, going out and trying to win tournaments. I'm always gearing for the top of the leaderboard. I mean, there's times where you just got to play a 1 or 2% type outcome guy like a Hartenstein, because you have a lineup that is just going to be a little bit behind another one. Because when you get paid off, you just want to get paid off completely at the top of the board.
We have a super chat from J Bravo 99, longtime listener. Thank you for listening. I don't know why, but I've always enjoyed the when people say longtime caller, first time listener. It's so dumb, but it's something that I always think is funny. That aside, from J Bravo 99, he's asking.
You just called him dumb and he gave us money.
No, he didn't call us dumb.
Cancel Greg. I was kidding.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I'd be all for that. I'd sit at home and do nothing.
I was going to say, what do you want from us? We can't compliment you. We can't bash you. We can't cancel you. We just want to. What do you want? What do you want?
You can't cancel somebody who is. What do I want? I just want to be unhappy. It's the only thing that makes me happy, Eric. I just want to be miserable and unhappy, and then I could truly feel fulfilled.
Apparently, Tyler agrees with that. He's nodding his head. Tyler, another man, sadness and broken dreams.
Well,
As for Jay Bravo's question,
had the same trauma. I guess.
Good talk.
Yours is more like uncle related or something with that mustache of yours. I'm sure there's some crossover. We have similar like sense of humor and whatnot though. So I could see it.
Catholic high school, Greg. All I got to say.
Yeah. Anyway, Jay Bravo's 99 question. FanDuel specifically is fading a team out of the question. Which team could we fade? I wouldn't fade any team on a 2-game slate. There's just not enough options.
You're not fading anybody. Let's play the theoretical game. If you had to fade one team, you're not fading the Clippers. I don't think you're fading Cleveland because there's just too many guys that can go completely nuts. I think if there was one team to fade, it would be Atlanta, which again, I'm not fading at all, but Atlanta would be the team you could fade.
Maybe the Pelicans. I think that's the team with the least amount of value. Either way, whatever. It's a 2-game slate. There's no teams that we're fading here.
Yeah, it's true.
We are caught up on the super chats with some more questions in our premium Discord channel. First from Governaut, DKGPP, Ingram and Okongwu, or Bogdanovich and Zubats. Ingram and Okongwu, or Bogdanovich and Zubats. I lean more towards the Ingram Okongwu side.
Yeah, it's pretty gross, but yeah, we're going to go to the Okongwu side.
From Chin Slaps, Gallinari or Herb Jones on DK today? That is Gallo for me.
Gallo as well. Also, did somebody seriously just come at me about the Jordan McLaughlin play? I had 10% of him. It was a getting super off the board in 150. Where are you? I need to ban. I'm not going to ban you. I'm just going to time you out because I'm upset. You're welcome. Bucks rule. You're welcome. Also, I'm cheering for your team because I bet them to win to win the world championship. So you're in timeout. There we are. That was fun to do live. That felt fulfilling.
Somebody asked if Rondo is starting today. No, Rondo is not starting today.
That's absurd. That's absurd. People are absurd.
Question from Mattier 55. Hunter and McCollum. Hunter, McCollum, and Herb Jones, or Ingram, Capella, and Jackson Hayes on FanDuel. That is Hunter, McCollum, and Herb Jones for me. How about you?
Agreed. Herb Jones is a guy we haven't talked about. And Herb Jones, going to the old boom bust tool, because of all this infusion of Clippers value, I think he's going very slept on. 4,800 over on the DraftKings board, under 25% owned now. He would have been perhaps the most popular piece of value on this slate had Paul George not gotten ruled out. Reggie Jackson, his price was broken already, so I suppose probably number 2. But Herb Jones went out and made like a statement defensive type game. He had his impact all over it, was knocking down corner threes. He had two threes in that outing, which, if he's going to be knocking that shot down, I mean, that opens up the floor for Ingram and McCollum even more because he's not generally somebody who's going out there and knocking down at a superb rate on the season, just a 34% 3-point shooter. So Herb Jones with the lefty stroke there, 30.75 DraftKings points. I don't know why he's not more popular. I mean, I know why, because the Clippers are just crazy popular at this point in time, but 35.6% optimal percentage, under 5K. I want to play more Herb Jones.
Got another question here from Governaut DKGPP, Jonas Valanciunas and Marcus Morris, or Garland and Batum. Garland and Batum for me.
Garland and Batum. But even though I'm probably, just because it's tournaments, I'm going to have more Covington.
All right. I think we are all caught up on all of the chats now. So let's, Eric, just kind of round this up position by position, and we'll go DK and then we'll go FanDuel, just saying at each position, who are the 2 players we have the most exposure to. So starting for me at point guard on DK, that is right now Reggie Jackson and Trae Young, although Trae Young and Darius Garland pretty interchangeable for me, but I'm going to use Darius Garland as a shooting guard that I'm getting the most exposure to now because he's also over there. So Reggie Jackson, Trae Young at point guard. How about you?
DraftKings or FanDuel? Which one do you want?
DK, we'll do FanDuel next.
Okay. DK, it is Reggie Jackson, Darius Garland.
And then shooting guard for me is Norman Powell and Darius Garland. How about yourself?
Norman Powell and Brandon Ingram.
Small. He doesn't have shooting guard eligibility.
I'm on DraftKings. We're talking.
Oh,
DraftKings
I'm looking at FanDuel. All right, I am an idiot. I had my.
You lose. Wrong, yes. Sir. Wrong.
I am a dunce. Okay. All right. So anyway,
now you feel better though because
Reggie
you
Jackson,
put yourself
Garland,
down.
Shooting guard for me, also Norman Powell and Brandon Ingram. My bad. That is mea culpa because I am a doofus. I think we had the same answers to this point so far. Small forward, Marcus Morris and Brandon Ingram. The next one after Ingram for me is Herbert Jones. You?
After that one, Marcus Morris, Danilo Gallinari, and Herbert Jones.
Oh, Dan Gallinari.
Gallinari.
Wait, no. All right, I'm right on this one. Gallinari does not have small forward eligibility on draft.
I thought we were just talking power forward. I thought you just slipped by.
I said small
forward. Brandon Ingram, Marcus Morris, same as you.
Power forward for me. We already said Marcus Morris. The next 2 up for me is Gallo and Batum.
It is Marcus Morris, Gallo, and Batum, and then Herbert Jones. Same ownership on those 2. And I'm probably going to turn Batum into more of Covington, based on how my lineups are doing. Because I think Covington might be a guy I just land on more as default.
Yeah, in terms of what's going to happen with the starting lineup for the Pelicans, I mean, for the Clippers, I don't know. It's going to be something we're going to have to make late swaps for. But I will say that at least as of now, I'm still getting to a lot of Morris, Batum, and I don't think that's going to change. At center, Zubats, Batum also center eligibility, and then Valanciunas for me at center.
And for me, to round it all out, I already talked about Capella, my love for him. Then you're going to Valanciunas. For me, Evan Mobley, Valanciunas, and Zubats rounding it out. But you're going to have shares of all of these guys. I'm just lower on Zubats.
All right, now let's hit up FanDuel positions. I've got this down now. I'm looking at the right. I'm looking at my FanDuel lineups now, not my DraftKings lineups. But I'm trying to get this straight. But I already gave my answer for FanDuel before, unbeknownst to myself, when I thought I was looking at my DK lineups. But Reggie Jackson and Trae Young. Reggie Jackson just a near lock play on FanDuel. Even I turned the randomness way up just out of curiosity and still got to over 90% Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about Zubats. I mean, he's 5,800 compared to some of these other guys. I mean, I had to do some weird things to get Zubats out of my lineup. So, I mean, and this is a guy that I'm generally also just a stand for both of these guys, him and Hartenstein. But, oh, man, you got to get different. And he's kind of a guy that I'm just hoping doesn't burn me today. So feel the same way. Reggie Jackson, I have 100% of on FanDuel. There's no way around it. And Darius Garland, nearly 100%.
Yeah, shooting guard for me, Norman Powell and Darius Garland.
Yep, same.
Small forward, Norman Powell is there, but then so Marcus Morris and Ingram, Powell also there, but we already hit on him. Anything different from you?
Yeah, I've got that. And then talking about Danilo Gallinari, because I'm just trying to make him a thing today. I'm hoping he goes a little bit under-owned compared to some of the other guys there.
Power forward, Marcus Morris, already talked about him. Brandon Ingram, already talked about him. Jared Allen and Nick Batum.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty uncomfortable. Jared Allen, I have a ton of. Marcus Morris, Brandon Ingram, power forward.
By the way, how FanDuel has given Jared Allen power forward eligibility all year, totally beyond me. I have no clue, but he does.
I'll take it.
That's something that makes it easier for him to fit into lineup. 6,100 on FanDuel, power forward and center eligibility. Centers, we've already got on Jared Allen, and then Valanciunas and Zubats for me. I assume Capella might be in the mix for yourself.
Yep, Capella is up there. Jared Allen, actually, I'm getting to at the center position as well. I didn't even really go through specifically how much was being eaten up by it, but I know Zubats, I'm underneath 30% on. He's going to be the most popular center play. Valanciunas, Capella, pretty much the exact same number on FanDuel.
Let's see if we had any questions or super chats while we read that off. Does not look like it. So we're all caught up on super chats. Discord channel, we are also caught up. So, all right, let's also finish with this. Which player are you underweight to that you think is just most likely to destroy you today?
Zubats. I keep saying it too. This guy won me 100K once upon a time. I love him more than anything. He is just, I love this man. And he did that in a Lakers uniform. I hate the Lakers, everything about him. And he was like the one guy that I just cheered for constantly. He got traded to the Clippers soon thereafter, which was useful, but I love Zubats as a player. I do not love him today. I hope he fails.
Is this real? Brian Foreman just posted and said, wait until you look at tomorrow's slate and see that Jokic and Embiid are both power forward eligible. Is that real?
No.
I didn't look at the slate.
Stop it. I haven't looked at it either. If that is actually the case, somebody needs to be fired. That's a fireable offense.
Well, the NBA, they tried to get both of them on the first team all NBA. They made Jokic and Embiid both power forward. By the way, yep, they are. FanDuel just brought it up. Jokic center power forward, 12,000. Embiid center power forward, 11,300. Did DK do that also? I didn't look at tomorrow's contest yet, so this is news to me. For tomorrow, there's no way DK did this. Maybe they did. Let's see.
Vladdy hit a home run. I don't care. We're going to all be okay.
Maybe. Unless I don't live that far from New York. If the ball comes through my window and hits me, that could be problematic.
Wow.
Right. Power forward. No, they're more normal on DraftKings. The thing that's funny about the NBA trying to pigeonhole, like trying to just force Embiid and Jokic both onto first team all NBA is, I don't know if you've looked at the voting. Embiid is not going to make first team all NBA anyway. It's just going to be second team. People took a stand. They're like, no, we care about our positions. We're not going to put him there. It's the dumbest thing.
Yep. Not great. What is great? Dylan Cease, Carlos Rodon off to an awesome start as well.
There we go. Love to see it.
Things you love to see, that.
Assuming he actually ends up more popular than what the ownership projections are because of just public sentiment, Rondo could be somebody that buries me today.
Oh, yeah. No, I have 0% Rondo. So, yeah, that would be bad. I can't imagine that having 0% of a guy and having him play well would go well for me.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Malukar was asking in the
Karis
chat.
LeVert would be another guy that could absolutely ruin my life.
Depends. Let's see how highly we have him projected for 36% ownership on FanDuel. He's only 22 on DK. I have him at 20. I have him at 21%.
It was just really hard to get there when you have every Clipper cheaper than that.
But I'm in the build I have 21% Levert. So
Yeah.
Project for 22%. Are you like well under that number?
I have like 14.
It's not crazy low. It's not too bad.
Yeah, it would be bad.
All right. We have reached lock, guys. Do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, but stick around for the next 30 minutes. Eric and I are going to be sweating the game a little bit, assuming it tips off at a reasonable time. We'll talk about some bets. We'll also shout out Underdog. Have you done any Underdog drafts, by the way?
I did a ton of best ball NFL. I didn't do any of the NBA for the playoffs here. I just too much other stuff. Baseball starting, getting back from the Masters. Tough life over here.
Yeah, I was. I did a handful of the drafts, and I don't really like best ball that much, but I like this format a lot on Underdog. I think it's really different. It's something I've been doing with my group of friends from childhood for 20 years. We've been doing similar drafts like this. We did these drafts for playoff leagues in very similar format to the best ball one. We used to all plan to leave class for bathroom break at the exact same time. We'd meet in the hallway and make our picks in the bathroom. And we do that a few times each day. So,
really shocking. Isn't it amazing? Now that I play my life out in my head, I'm like, I totally understand how I have this job. I did a lot of weird stuff. I used to take the paper, and I would do baseball leagues, and then we would bet on the players in the box scores based on their box scores. So you know how sharp I was when I was 15? Not very. But we would literally take the box scores and we would predict which twins were going to get hits the night before, and we would pass dollars around the next morning.
Nice. Were you better than your friends at this game or no?
No, I got murdered. I got absolutely murdered. I think that was the impetus where I'm like, I need to get better at this because that. And then when I was 16, we got into poker. Poker was the new craze, and I got murdered at that. And so I had to get good at that too. So it was a lot of losing before any winning. But that's generally how most things work.
So we had me and my group of friends who are also, I assume a lot of us had similar kind of interests when we were childhood, which is why we ended up in the same thing. But we, because you brought up poker, we played a lot of poker. This is very embarrassing. We made a spoof of Rounders called Rounders on Pot, and it is not good at all. We did it for...
If you don't post this, hang on. How many likes would it take to get this posted on YouTube? Or to get this posted on Twitter?
I don't have it.
Oh.
But I have, so my friends Matt and Dan, who were both in this with me, they also, they're coming over to watch the Celtics game on Sunday because my friend Matt and I, and he's been my best friend since we were in playgroup together when we were 3 months old. We place a lot of futures bets together and we talk about them at length. So we've both been really high on the Celtics all year. So they're coming over to watch the Celtics game, and I'll see, maybe they still have the video.
Dude, you need to get that. You need to get that. The closest thing I have to that, we made a Star Wars spoof for AP Biology called Cell Wars. And we had all the different parts of cells that everybody had their own little thing. I know I was Han Solo. I can't remember what the knockoff was of it, but we had some pretty ridiculously bad dialogue, but it was beautiful times. That was the best growing up, is just making random garbage with your friends.
And I think we were 10 years old in the video or something. I have to look. When did Rounders come out? Rounders. Did you know that Rounders is loosely based on Norm Macdonald?
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
The guy who wrote the movie.
Yeah, he's the guy who wrote Billions. Is what's his face? Brian Koppelman.
He used to play in an underground poker game with Norm Macdonald. Just thought Norm was really interesting, and supposedly Matt Damon's character in the movie is loosely based on Norm Macdonald from some of those poker games there.
You went after Janny Chan, you son of a bitch. So good.
All right, Rounders. What year did Rounders come out?
If I had to guess, 2002.
Rounders came out in 1998.
Whoa, earlier.
All right, so I was 8 years old when Rounders came out. So I was probably 12 years old when I made that spoof video.
So good.
You can only be so embarrassed by stuff you do when you're 12.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true.
At least I hope so. When my friends come over, I'll see if they still have the video. If they do, we'll do some kind of bet. If I lose, it'll get released. Or maybe if I win, it gets released.
Speaking of bets, I'm in Arizona and I need to make some. Let's do this before this game starts.
We could absolutely. So let me check. Is the Cavs game locked yet?
No.
So that game is not scheduled to lock for. No, it is locked.
So for those who don't know, it is. It just went away. Oh, so I mean, I signed up for all the promotions last time I was here, like the DK, FD, BetMGM, Caesars, PointsBet, FoxBet, like everything you could possibly do here. I've taken advantage of like all of the promotions to be able to get in. And I don't even think I've had like that good of a stretch of betting out here. And I think I'm up a little over $1,000. And it's pretty incredible how far these promotions can take you. And coupling that with OddsShopper specifically, it's kind of a no-brainer if you're in a state where you're able to do this. If you're able to play DFS and be able to sports bet, yes, DFS is what we love to do. It's what we love to talk every day. But I've really learned to love and embrace the betting side of things over the course of the last couple of years. And there's just so much money to be made following sharp guys like Greg, sharp guys like Ben Raza, Alex Baker, Steve Buzzard, all of these guys.
Yeah, I would like to keep pushing my favorite futures bet right now, but it doesn't exist. Luis Severino, 100-1 to win Cy Young. It's gone after he shut down the Blue Jays yesterday. The terrible pitching in the American League has caused Luis Severino's future odds to plummet. He's now around 30-1 to win Cy Young at most places. Unreal. I'm going to check out OddsShopper right now. And if you guys aren't familiar with OddsShopper, it's the easiest way to place any kind of sports bets. You just pull it up and you can find the best bets on the board. It takes 30 seconds or less. And the first game has already locked. And I think sportsbooks, I think a lot of them might have been, or a couple of them might have gotten caught with their pants down the other day when which game was it? The Nets. Which game tipped off early?
It was like really quick because it was inside of 10 minutes. I think it was the Brooklyn game, first one right out of the gate.
Yeah, that might have been whatever it was. You and I were talking about trying to find bets for it. And then people in chat are like, the game already started. And I looked online. It's like, yeah, the game was scheduled to tip at 7:08 and it tipped like right at 7:00. So I think that's why sports books are being a little quicker, just pull these games. Cause I think a couple of them had lines left up that they would have not wanted to be left up for the first couple minutes of that game. But anyway, if we just go over to OddsShopper and see what kind of bets stand out. Let's see. What do I like here that's showing up on OddsShopper? If he comes off the bench, I see we have a bet Norman Powell under 4.5 rebounds. That seems like a fairly high number for Norman Powell. Yeah, I have Powell way under that. So the concern right here would be if Powell starts. If we get the Clippers starting lineup and Powell is coming off the bench, I love that under 4.5 rebound number for Norman Powell. I have him under 3, in fact. So 4.5 is really inflated. What is your expectation for playing time for Norman Powell if he comes off the bench?
Yeah. So, I mean, what I'm going to do, and I've been thinking about this a little bit because single game parlays, I don't get access to this all the time. I only have it until I go back home on Sunday night. So I'm going to try to do some single game parlays where I write out what I would want it to be, what I would want that card to be. And as soon as that lineup drops, I want to be able to react with a number of props. I don't want to just have it be one. I think there's a number of ways to really look at it. I think Norman Powell is the by far most interesting starter you could get just from a pure fantasy perspective and from a prop perspective to be bullish on all of the numbers that he's at. Right now, 2.4 is his assists. It's plus 120 on the under. If we see that he is not in the starting lineup, I want to smash that right away on OddsShopper. 29% expected ROI. You get plus 120. You don't need that bet to go 50-50, but yet there's a 58% expect winning percentage on it. That becomes very intriguing. You can combine it with rebounds. You can combine that with all of these unders that really stick out. And I would want to be positive. I would want to be bullish on the props of whoever that other starter was. So I think I'm going to probably build out. I think the most likely guy, talking with you, I think you've convinced me Terrence Mann is somebody that maybe we should be looking at being on some overs for. And just have Norman Powell as the unders, single game parlay those on both sides. That's really kind of the thing that OddsShopper is showing me could be the best bet, the best path to making money in this game tonight.
Yeah, and you know what else? If you guys are not aware, Underdog, who sponsors the show, you can sign up using the promo code Awesemo and get up to $100 bonus on your first deposit. They also have over-unders for props now. And that is something I think we could talk about too. And we're bringing up Norman Powell. The over-under for points on him is 21.5. That's a pretty high number over at Underdog. It's going to depend if he's starting or not. But if he's coming off the bench, I have to feel like we like that under 21.5 points. It's a pretty high number.
Yep, agreed. These sites, they're so great with some of these props that they're starting to make available. Underdog also, you were about to say the Prize Picks. They do not pay out as well as Underdog does. Underdog is a better spot to go play if you have the option of one or the other. I've been playing more on Underdog simply because you get better numbers. You get a better payout structure on Underdog. You can also go up to 20x. There's just a lot of offerings, the exact same kind of structure for it. But obviously, there's a great guy that's running all the accounts and everything there over at Underdog. I won't say his name, but a guy that you've worked with before. And obviously, it's just somebody that I have a lot of respect for in the industry. And they seem to really have their stuff together over at Underdog, not just in the best ball street where they're basically the monopoly. The best ball street is just phenomenal over there. But now these prop offerings have been very, very fun to enjoy as well.
Yeah, I'm scrolling through the Underdog ones, just seeing what else potentially sticks out. Let me see. Where do I have Jackson Hayes? Because he has an over-under of half a block. That's pretty efficient. I thought maybe that was a little low, but I kind of am close to that.
What's ironic is I don't think I can play props over there from Arizona.
Yeah, I can't New Jersey on Underdog.
It's just funny how times switched. Hey, I got a free bet though from somewhere. That's nice.
Oh, look at
Look at me. Look at me. He bets $50 on something one time. Look at me go.
Big spender.
Big spender.
Oh, here's I'm looking at Zubats. I kind of like the over 20.5 points plus rebounds for Zubats, considering the workload he got in the first game of the play-in game. I have him projected a little bit over that number. Last game, which was the other playing game, he played 32 minutes, 7 points, 9 rebounds. So while that's under the 20.5, there's no Paul George in the mix. And if he's actually going to play 32 minutes, I think we should expect pretty gaudy numbers from Ivica Zubats for the season. He played 24.5 minutes per game and averaged 10.3 points and 8.5 rebounds. So we're looking at 19 for him in terms of his seasonal average. And I was in 24.5 minutes. If we're actually getting it over 30, I think he probably should smash the 20.5 points plus rebounds. What do you have points plus rebounds projection for Zubats?
I have 22.5. I mean, that's a good enough number for me to take an over on it there. 22.4. I'm okay getting to that number. I've already talked about how in DFS, it's more of a game theory thing as well. Do I think Zubats makes a lot of sense for DFS purposes? Yes. But I'm hoping that the upside, like center, you can find some upside because of how good the fantasy point per minute rates are, because on DK, you get the double-double bonus. Guys like Capella, guys like Jonas Valanciunas, Isaiah Hardenstein, even on his own team, they're all guys who perform at a better fantasy point per minute rate if he gets injured, if there's something else to have happen there. You are passing a lot of the field when a 46% Zubats based off of his minutes allotment last game gets as much of attention as what he's getting there. But props, that doesn't matter. If there's value there, there's value there. So I think we should be looking at that over too. I like that call by you.
Yeah, so that's one that stood out to me. Other than that, I don't really see too much else I like. Also, I'm very disappointed that somebody tweeted at us that Brian Copeland has said that the Norm Macdonald thing about Randers was actually a myth, which I had heard was something that was based in reality, but apparently not. That's very disappointing for me to hear. I wish that he would have just said it was based on Norm Macdonald.
Yep. We can't have nice things, Greg. It's 2022. We can't have nice things. Unless it's Corbin Burns' nice things, in which case you have lots of nice things.
Corbin Burns rules.
He's pretty cool. Corbin Burns. Pretty good dude. I got a set. Yeah, well, we'll get to that later. We'll talk about that.
I do have a baseball bet I like for tonight, though.
Ooh, let's talk that because, again, I like the baseball bets. The lines have been so soft lately. It's incredible.
Let me check to make sure it still exists. It's the same one I gave out when we were doing the strategy show this morning. Do you remember what it was?
Was it the over? It was a strikeout prop. It was
San Diego Padres run.
Oh, that's right. The team total on that.
Let's see, come on, still exists.
4.5. I'm looking at now.
Oh, it's gone up so much then. Let me double check to make sure it's still
check it out. I'm looking at 4.3 and 4.3 as the implied run totals for both of them now. 4.5 it is on DK, if I'm looking at the right thing.
All right, so let me go to the team props. Yeah, so the line I have is over 3.5 runs for the for the Padres, which I just think is an egregious line, considering they're going up against Kyle Wright, who is not good at all.
Which one are you looking at here? I'm looking at the app.
I'm looking at the total runs for the Padres. So it is still available 3.5, but it's juiced up to -145 now. I still don't really mind that though. Over 3.5 runs for the Padres, -145. You have to go, if you go to popular bets in the game and then team total runs, you'll see over under 3.5 for the Padres.
Look at this. I'm learning new stuff all the time.
Did you find it?
Why can't California be cool? Why can't we be cool?
Did you find it?
No, I did not. I was just trying to find it there and found it for like 2 seconds. Padres. Let's see.
If you click on the individual game, Braves, Padres, popular, and then scroll down to where it says team total runs.
Team total runs. Got it. Yep. Team total runs over 3.5, -145 for me.
Even at -145, I don't mind it. I mean, Kyle Wright is not good. And I'll pull up his number because I didn't have baseball numbers pulled up in front of me during the show.
I'm going to put together. Here's the thing. I never get to do this. So I'm going to do this right now. If you are one of the lucky 630 people that are still hanging out here, sounds great. We're going to put together a 3-pick. Well, actually, it's going to be 4. Greg gave us 2. The Padres, that one. I'm going to throw one into the mix as well. And I want one from Chad. We're going to put a 4-pick parlay based on what we like tonight in multiple sports, whatever sport, whether it's NBA, MLB, whatever you want. Put $100 on it. If it hits, I will share 50% of the profits with somebody who follows Greg, OddsShopper, and myself.
We do well, it's going to be, I think some of the Clippers bets are going to be hard to place right now just because we don't know what the starting lineup is.
The Zubats one, I still think we can. That's why I like it the most.
On Underdog, you mean?
No, I'm looking. I mean, can't we bet his? If that's it's not available.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't think it's because it's not going to be available because we don't have the starting lineups yet.
Got it. Okay, we'll wait on that one. I'll wait on the starting lineup. That Padres game isn't until tonight either. So looking, I'm going to keep looking here as well. Go back to OddsShopper here. So we got to wait until, we got to wait a little while until we get those Clippers props posted. So that'll be a second here. Let's look at the Pelicans side of it here now too. Another nice thing, you're able to click on Clippers, Pelicans. You can just kind of assort it based on that one specific team. I guess you can go back to NBA bets and just click on the specific team. So we're going to do that. I'm going to go to the Pelicans. I'm going to see what OddsShopper's got here for the top Pelicans play on the board. Projected ROI, over 2.5 assists for Jonas Valanciunas. You want to talk about big minutes for a center. He played some massive minutes. Larry Nance Jr., that is more of a dart throw for DFS purposes in a game script where the Clippers try to get J-Val off the floor, but I doubt they're going to. 36 plus minutes here for him. They can't really employ the same strategy they did against Cat because Paul George isn't on the floor. Doubt they're going to be able to just put a Nicholas Batum out on Jonas Valanciunas. That won't make a lot of sense with Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum on the floor. I'm looking at the over of 2.5 for Jonas Valanciunas assists. I really like that one. How about you?
I dig it. I have Valanciunas projected right around 3 assists, and you're getting plus money on Valanciunas for the over 2.5 assists. There's a line available for over 2.5 at plus 210. So it's going to depend what book you look at. You should be using OddsShopper to try to find the best line possible, which is, kind of the purpose of it. You get over 2.5 assists for Valanciunas at plus 210 at plus 110 at one book, where it's plus 105 at other books. So you get yourself a little bit extra value in the long run if you always make sure to get the best lines. But I guess what is going to make this a little more complicated is if you and I are trying to place a parlay across multiple sports, because some of the odds are going to be different across different books.
Well, I've got on DK, where I'm going to be at for it. -145 Padres team total, over 2.5 on Jonas Valanciunas. Let's see. I saw Marcus Morris over 21.5. That looks fascinating to me. That's a pretty big number for Marcus Morris.
By the way, what's happening in the so the start of the Cavs-Hawks game, it is 8-4 Cleveland. Evan Mobley is off to a quick start. 5 points in 2 minutes for Evan Mobley. He's 2-2 from the field and has knocked down a triple. Darius Garland has a rebound, an assist, and a steal in 2 minutes. From the Hawks side of the game, Clint Capella, 4 rebounds in 2 minutes. Nobody else really doing anything.
5 in 3 minutes. Yeah. Unreal.
Pulling down boards.
That escalated quickly.
Yep.
I mean, I have a lot of him. He's got 6. They just gave him credit for another.
Oh my God.
In 3 minutes, Clint Capella has 6 rebounds. Okay.
Can we keep looking at the box score? Because apparently every time I look at it, I look away. He's got another rebound. He might have 30 rebounds by the time we're done with the show.
Did I say how much of him I had on DK today?
You said you liked him.
I like him a lot. I have 72% of him on DK.
I dig it.
That would be fun. That would be very fun. What did he end up at? He was projected 24%. I bet he's a little bit higher than that, but not by much. There are a lot of people playing Zubats, which I get, but didn't Clint Capella just go completely nuts in less than 30 minutes? I projected him north of 34. That was just kind of like a can't miss spot for me to get to a lot.
Yeah, let me check where's the rookie of the year voting at? Do you ever follow that?
All the time. Yeah. Mobley wasn't like minus 140 or something.
No.
I mean, minus 150.
So there's a spreadsheet that somebody put together on Reddit where they just track all of the votes as they're put out because a lot of the voters now are, they're people who put out content, whether it's Bill Simmons, Zach Lowe, etc. And so what you could do is you could kind of in real time track where the voting is at and sweat your bets. At least that's what I do with it. Other people are out just interested in who wins like if you care about who wins the awards and no money on it, you're just an insane person. I don't know why you would care at that point.
You're Dexter.
Yeah. You could also just track where all the betting is at or the voting is at. And right now, Evan Mobley has overtaken Scotty Barnes in first place votes. He is 18-16 for Barnes. Cade is at 3. I would very much enjoy Evan Mobley to win Rookie of the Year this year. That one's going to be really close. There was a bunch of them that were close that have kind of started to separate. So Jordan Poole was ahead of Ja Morant for a lot of the early votes that came in. And then Ja Morant got like 10 votes in a row. So now he's a pretty significant lead for most improved player. Marcus Smart has a gigantic lead for defensive player of the year right now. MVP basically over Jokic, 6th man of the year. Tyler Hero is 100% of the votes right now. He is going to win that. So that was for my own purpose. I just wanted to look at it because of the quick start for Evan Mobley. And for my personal wallet,
I love it.
I would like Mobley to win Rookie of the Year.
I would like that for you. You're a good human being. I won't compliment you. You're a bad human being. 22.5 is the line on DK now for the over-under for 22.5 for points, rebounds, assists for Zubats. I don't like that as much. Can we find something else to add to that? Because I've still got the Padres team runs over for 2.5. Jonas Valanciunas assists. I need 2 more.
By the way, Garland is 3 steals in 5 minutes now. The Cavs are
useful.
Cavs are beating down the Hawks right now. We're about halfway through the first quarter. Cavs up 15-6. They can.
And the beautiful thing? There's no such thing as blowout risk in this game. There's just not. You have to be a 40-point game for there to be blowout risk.
Yeah, true. And then even, we're going to say the Clippers are at risk of blowing anybody out. There's no lead that's safe when the Clippers are ahead. I know firsthand from what happened last game.
Yeah. Woof.
Dumb Clippers.
Woof.
Dumb
Silly
Clippers.
Wabbit.
Who are you picking to win these games?
I think we had talked about this. Maybe we weren't live yet yesterday.
We weren't.
This morning. It was. I think we both picked Atlanta coming into this one. Mm-hmm. I liked New Orleans. Well, I liked the Clippers, and now I think I like New Orleans without Paul George. But it's going to be the most competitive game. This one, I felt pretty inclined to say that I thought Atlanta looked better, but I also didn't think Jared Allen was playing yet. There were so many pieces of information we just didn't know. I didn't know if Bogdanovich was going to play. A lot that was up in the air, but I think it was slight lean Atlanta, slight lean New Orleans.
Yeah, and it's totally different. Well, no, for me, it was the Clippers this morning, but we didn't know.
It was the Clippers this morning, but I'm saying now. You asked now. Yeah.
Now that the Clippers, by the way, you know what this is going to help us with? Clippers up 15-6, 6 minutes into the game, probably lessens the chance of Rajon Rondo playing extended minutes, right? Because that was
Jack Nicholson
game. He was kind of like a break in case of emergency.
That's exactly what it was. I don't know how you could have watched the beginning of that Brooklyn game. They weren't getting any ball movement. There was no spacing. Nothing was happening. And they just put Rajon Rondo out there and was like, hey, go try to make some plays. We're not going to probably win this game anyway. I think it is far more likely that he plays 0 than 26 minutes. 26 would be absurd. even 18, I think is like absurd to me.
I would be surprised if he plays 0 though.
Yeah. I mean, I bet he hits the floor, but I'm saying that if you had to tell me that he was going to play the same minutes allotment or 0, I would definitely be slamming the 0 side of it.
Yeah, I would say, I think it's reasonable to expect him to play, I don't know, 12 minutes, I'd say is probably like more reasonable, where you get a rotation the first quarter, rotation the second quarter, but it's also going to depend on game flow. If they are just crushing the Hawks with him off the court, he's just less apt to get on the floor and play extended minutes. And we're very early in the game. We like to overreact to the first few minutes because what else are we going to react to? But I think it's
kind of fun. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. Are you nervous about Jared Allen?
No.
Not at all?
No. Did he sub out already? Because he looks like he's still on the floor. We're 5 minutes in. It's a timeout. So I feel okay about it. He's got, 4.5? Oh, Isaac Okoro just checked in for him as soon as you said that. You're the worst. Why are you doing what you're doing? That was just negative juju you put out in the world. And here comes Isaac Okoro with his 0.6 fantasy point per minute rate to save the day. Auburn's finest.
Somebody was making fun of me earlier for saying that Isaac Okoro was going to be ahead of Rajon Rondo in the rotation. There it is. He's ahead. He was ahead of Rondo in the rotation the entire year. It was just and by the way, he was ahead of Rondo in the rotation last game too. Okoro started. So it wasn't that crazy of a take.
Yeah.
I don't think either Rondo nor Okoro were very good DFS plays today, but we'll see.
Are you telling me some people in YouTube chat don't know a whole heck of a lot? That is shocking to me. I'm shocked. Hang on. Most of you are pretty damn sharp because that's why you're checking out these shows to begin with. But also there's a few of you, you know who you are, and you just want to stir the pot. You just want to keep stirring. You want to do it. You just want to have a little bit of attention in the afternoon. And that's all right. But we're going to call you out when you're absolutely stupid.
But, by the way, my preference is not to take Rondo victory laps for a bench player 5 minutes into the game when, of course, he hasn't stepped on the court yet. Yeah. We're playing with fire here, Eric.
I need those 2 other bets. My God, what are we doing here? San Diego. I guess there's not really any rush, but I definitely don't want to be taking the over on 22.5 for Zubats at that number.
Let me see if some of the other baseball bets I liked earlier.
Come on, 460 people. Let's get your favorite bet here for the evening into the chat right now. What is your favorite bet for the chat? We're going to scope some of them, and whatever one wins the day, if it matches up with us with Odd Shopper, we will fire it up.
I think it's going to kind of have to be baseball bets right now. I think anyway. It's going to be, if anybody in chat, I think everybody in chat now would just say Lauri Markkanen bets, but that game's already started. Markkanen cannot miss right now. He's making everything.
My Lord, 11 points. I caught a little bit of the show previous to us because, I was just kind of in here trying to go through the research. And I think Adam said something where it's like, oh, well, Lauri Markkanen, what's he going to do? Get hot? And like the difference between him and Kevin Love. Adam, there you go. Well done. You've done this to all of us.
Let's see. I have 25% Markkanen on FanDuel, 17% on DK.
Angels, Rangers over 10. I do not completely hate that. I'm cheering for it anyway.
Do we? I mean, we don't have to rehash the Matt Bush conversation from earlier, but
you kind of do because it was maybe my favorite moment of Awesemo.com. Tyler, would you agree?
Tyler wasn't here.
I mean,
he wasn't here.
I wasn't here.
He doesn't know what I'm talking about.
My personal favorite is when you misread super chat names or you read them without pre-reading them and with, full enthusiasm. And I really wish I had that clip. I'm not going to lie.
I do. I have it on my phone saved. But yeah,
I also good. Sometimes maybe shit.
It's always good. There is no, when you're reading fake names.
Damage.
It makes more sense today than ever before. That is
always
for sure.
From multiple angles. But yeah, there's never a time that Eric's read a phony name that it hasn't been amazing. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe good.
Yeah. We all have our callings in life. Mine is reading names of super chats. That's lovely. That's just lovely. All right. I'm adding the under of Cubs and Rockies under 10 runs. I'm so in love with that. I'm so on board with that. I just have to.
Our guy, Tariq Skubal, his over under for strikeouts was 4.5 and it was plus money on the over. Has that game already started? I forget the start times of the games.
Had to have. It's already what? It's 5 o'clock.
No. You got 10 minutes.
Oh, well, then we're going to add that.
Exists.
That's going to be the other one in. So under of 10 runs, 2 ground ball pitchers there in Coors today, 1-time dealer.
Here's one thing, unfortunate though. Earlier in the day, it was plus money. Now it's minus 115 on the over. Either way, though, at 4.5, you and I are both Scooball strikeout upside fans, so I think it makes sense.
You could give up 5 earned and still get over on that number, which is kind of the fun of Scooball. All righty.
Get your bet in.
I'm about to finish it up. I'm going to finish it up when we get off the show because I got 10 minutes.
Okay. So also tell the people how they could get in on the giveaway you're doing. And then also, guys, don't forget, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, check out OddsShopper. You could find the best prop bets on any individual day. It takes less than 30 seconds to get those in. We added golf recently, MLB coming soon. Eric, tell the people one more time about the giveaway.
Yeah, here you go. So you follow at OddsShopper, you follow at Ehrenberg DFS, you follow at Eric Lindquist on the Twitters. You follow those 3. I post the screenshot. You like the tweet up, and I will, if it hits, give 50% away. We have come the hook away from 2 of them on a different site. Thank you so much to Underdog for today. We obviously love playing over there. I've enjoyed the fact that they have better payout structures than just about any of these other sites. So I'm telling you right now, play it for best ball, play it for props, play it for everything. Thank you so much to them.
That is going to do it for us today. One final thing. If you're looking for USFL projections, Matt Gajewski's been working on those. We have a USFL package for $14.99. There's going to be USFL contests tomorrow on DraftKings. Looks like it's going to be really popular. So check out all of that. Good luck today, guys, and I'll catch you tomorrow.